Chapter 2998. Even the king of the horseshoe monkeys had been killed. More importantly, this horseshoe monkey king had the heavenly token and was the king of the heavenly token. No matter how many horseshoe monkeys Su Zimo had killed, they didn't have the heavenly token and weren't part of the heavenly token. But now, killing these two horseshoe monkey kings was tantamount to starting a direct conflict with the heavenly token. In the eyes of the ape king and the others, Su Zimo wasn't just causing a huge disaster, but directly piercing through the sky. What is Yuan Huang's sworn brother's background? He's just a true spirit, but he's able to cross a major realm and kill a king. This kid probably doesn't know the background of these two horseshoe monkey kings. That's why he was so ruthless. No matter what his background is, he won't be able to escape the blood ape realm. That's right. The Red Sea Monkey King must have sensed Ma Xian's death and probably already came out of seclusion. Not to mention a horseshoe monkey king died. The four blood ape kings communicated with their divine wills. The battle wasn't over yet. The Daluo sword tomb buried one horseshoe monkey king, while the other horseshoe monkey king used all his trump cards and secret techniques to struggle against the Yin Yang Grotto Heaven. But even after using all his methods, he could only delay for a moment. He couldn't stop the Yin Yang power at all. More than half of this horseshoe monkey king's body was devoured by the Yin Yang Grotto Heaven. Seeing that he was about to die, he took the heavenly token from his waist. This horseshoe monkey king raised the heavenly token and reached out of the grotto heaven with a terrified expression. I am the king of the heavenly token. Even the king of the heavenly token must die. Su Zimo shouted and had no intention of stopping. He activated his primordial spirit and the power of Yin and Yang erupted, instantly killing this horseshoe monkey king. This horseshoe monkey king wanted to use the heavenly token to suppress Su Zimo and save his life before plotting revenge. He didn't expect Su Zimo to be so fearless after hearing about the heavenly token. Since he decided to attack, he naturally wouldn't show mercy. Even if he spared the horseshoe monkey king, he wouldn't let him go after it escaped. Even the four kings of the blood ape clan were shocked. This brat knows that the other party is from the celestial tribute world, yet he still dares to kill? He looks so young. Even if he has heard of the celestial tribute realm, he probably doesn't know how terrifying it is. What should we do? Are we just going to watch him kill, or? The four kings of the blood ape clan communicated with their divine wills and hesitated. Naturally, they didn't want to be enemies with Su Zimo. However, if they allowed Su Zimo to go on a killing spree in front of everyone, it would be difficult for them to explain themselves when the macaque lineage pursued the matter. Roar! At this moment, a furious roar came from behind the bloody mountain. The Red Sea Monkey King has come out of seclusion. The sky-breaking ape king's heart skipped a beat when he heard the howl. This Red Sea Monkey King was a peak king Ma Xian's father. He was also a red bottomless horse monkey, but his body and bloodline were far superior to his son's. Amongst the kings of the blood ape realm, this Crimson Sea Monkey King's combat strength was ranked number 1. The sky-breaking ape king looked at Su Zimo, who wasn't far away, and said with a sigh, I tried to persuade you to leave, but you didn't. Now it's too late to leave. No matter how fast a true spirit movement technique was, it couldn't escape the pursuit of a king. A grotto heaven king could tear through the void and escape into a spatial tunnel. In the sky-breaking ape king's eyes, even if Su Zimo escaped now, he would be caught by the Red Sea Monkey King before he could leave the blood ape realm. Su Zimo's expression was calm. He nodded slightly at the sky-breaking ape king before releasing a secret art. His left eye glowed, and his right eye shone with a black and white divine light. They formed a yin-yang twin fish diagram that spun continuously. Su Zimo took out the Tai horsetail whisk. With the jade handle as the shaft, the silver thread as the hair, and the true yuan as the ink, he wrote a few strange runes on the yin-yang twin fish diagram. Then he threw the Tai horsetail whisk into the black and white boundary of the yin-yang twin fish diagram. It merged perfectly with the diagram and disappeared. The void cracked open and a spatial tunnel appeared. Tai yin-yang escape. Su Zimo grabbed the monkey and was about to step into the spatial tunnel to leave the blood ape realm. Wait! At that moment, a blood ape king frowned and shouted, Leave Yuan Huang behind. This blood ape king didn't have any ill intentions. However, in his eyes, Su Zimo had already offended the celestial tribute world. If he followed him, the monkey would most likely die. Therefore, his first reaction was to ask Su Zimo to leave the monkey behind. Su Zimo stood at the entrance of the spatial tunnel. He paused and glanced sideways. Can you protect him? The blood ape king fell silent and lowered his head. If today's matter was investigated, the monkey would definitely die if he stayed in the blood ape realm. They didn't even dare to kill a horse-monkey true spirit, let alone protect the monkey's life. Go! The sky-piercing ape king urged with his divine sense. At the same time he charged toward Su Zimo and shouted, "Where do you think you're going?" Although the sky-piercing ape king charged over, he didn't actually use any techniques. He was just putting on an act. Su Zimo didn't stay any longer. He brought the monkey into the spatial tunnel and disappeared. Not long after he left, the void above the battle stage cracked open. A horse-monkey king with a thick bloody aura walked out and looked around with a malicious gaze. It was the Red Sea Monkey King. What happened? The Red Sea Monkey King looked at the corpses and rivers of blood around him. Moreover, they were all from the horse-monkey bloodline. His face couldn't help but turn gloomy. The horse-monkey race's losses were too great. After seeing Ma Xian's corpse on the battle stage, the Red Sea Monkey King's bloody aura became even stronger. His expression was cold and his aura became much more violent. He slowly asked, "Who did this?" Some of the horseshoe monkeys who were lucky enough to survive hurriedly ran over and recounted the scene that had just happened in detail. "Yuan Huang Su Zimo?" The Red Sea Monkey King narrowed his eyes and murmured. Then he glanced at the sky-piercing ape king and the other three beast kings and said coldly, "The four of you just stood by and watched, allowing an outsider to slaughter our horse-monkey race. In my opinion, this Su Zimo or whatever was brought here by you. If you want to condemn someone, you can always find a pretext." The sky-piercing ape king sneered and said, "The entire process happened too quickly. Those two beast kings were killed before they could even last a single round. Moreover, that Su Zimo wanted to escape. We even tried to stop him, but we couldn't." Although the Red Sea Monkey King didn't see it with his own eyes, he could guess that the sky-piercing ape king and the others wouldn't try their best to stop him. "Whether you want to condemn someone or not, I'll find out after I capture those two bastards and search their souls." The Red Sea Monkey King sneered and said, "If this has anything to do with you, I'll bury 10 times, no, 100 times your blood apes." Chapter 2999. Hearing the Red Sea Monkey King's threat, the sky-breaking ape king sneered inwardly, but his expression did not change. Su Zimo had nothing to do with the blood ape race. Even if he did, that person had already escaped into the spatial tunnel. Even if the Red Sea Monkey King chased after him, he would not be able to catch up. Roar! The Red Sea Monkey King roared at the sky, summoning all the horse monkey kings to gather here. Many horse monkey kings came out of seclusion. Soon 17 horse monkey kings arrived. Apart from the Red Sea Monkey King, there were 2 other peak-tier kings. The sky-breaking ape king looked on coldly. The cosmos was vast and boundless. It was possible for Su Zimo to escape in any direction. But in the universe, even the slightest deviation would cause the gap between them to widen. Even if the Red Sea Monkey King gathered 180 kings, it would still be hard for them to catch up to Su Zimo, let alone 18 kings. The Red Sea Monkey King gave a simple description of what had just happened. When the 17 horse monkey kings saw what had happened, their faces turned green. They were furious and filled with killing intent. "Red Sea, those two have already escaped for a long time. How do we chase after them?" A horse monkey king frowned. "The universe is vast. If we scatter and search, it will be like searching for a needle in a haystack." The Red Sea Monkey King said, "Everyone, don't worry. If you follow me, we will be able to catch up to those 2 ants. Although that brat has already escaped, the escape technique he used involves yin and yang. There will be traces of yin and yang left behind in this place." Traces of yin and yang. The other horse monkey kings frowned. They naturally could not see any traces of yin and yang with their divine senses. The sky-breaking ape king also revealed a confused expression. But soon he realized that something was wrong. The Red Sea Monkey King had already awakened the complete red-bone horse monkey bloodline. It was said that it understood yin and yang, understood human affairs and avoided death. Others might not be able to see any traces of yin and yang, but it could not escape the Red Sea Monkey King's eyes. At this moment, the Red Sea Monkey King's eyes started to change. His left eye turned black and his right eye white. It turned into a pair of yin and yang eyes that could see through the void and capture traces of yin and yang. "Everyone follow me," the Red Sea Monkey King said in a deep voice. The sky-breaking ape king's eyes flickered. Just as he was about to step forward, a blood ape king stopped him and shook his head. "Padian, we can't do anything about this," the blood ape king said telepathically. The heaven-breaking ape king frowned and said, "If Chi Hai and the others chase after them, Yuan Huang and Yuan Huang will definitely die. Are we just going to sit by and do nothing?" That Su Zimo's identity and background are unknown. Let's not act rashly, another Blood Ape King said. The heaven-piercing Ape King said, even so that Su Zimo did help us vent our anger, and Yuan Huang is also one of our clansmen. Padian, you have to understand that Su Zimo killed the king of the celestial tribute world. He's already committed a heinous crime. The first Blood Ape King said in a serious tone, if we interfere we'll definitely be used against us. Chi Hai and the others will definitely use this chance to accuse us of being sinners. When that time comes, we'll probably be locked up in the War Sin land and never see the light of day again. The other Blood Ape King said, back then the Sector Lord suffered great humiliation and bowed to the celestial tribute world in order to protect us. We can't let him down. The sky-breaking Ape King clenched his fists and didn't say a word. He slowly lowered his head. Deep within the Blood Ape world, an old ape slowly stood up. A hint of hesitation flashed through his muddy eyes. Sector Lord? The Blood Ape King below him realized what the old ape was thinking and hurriedly said with his divine sense, don't be rash. Just as the old ape was about to move, he suddenly sensed two powerful divine consciousness pressures enveloping him. The old ape closed his eyes and stood still for a long time. Finally he sighed and sat back down. Those two juniors. What a pity. The old ape said in his heart. Su Zimo led Monkey through the dimensional tunnel and changed direction multiple times. They only stopped after 3 days. The two of them chatted a lot during the 3 days. Both of them talked about their experiences after ascending. Su Zimo talked about the tiger, Ching Ching, the golden lion, little fox and the others. He also mentioned the night spirit. However, ever since he received some news about the night spirit in the celestial tribute world, there was no news. There was no other reason for him to stop temporarily, other than the fact that the monkey's injuries were very serious. Monkey's bloodline was only in its initial awakening. Coupled with the fact that Ma Xian was extremely heavy-handed, Monkey's bloodline and elixirs did not show any signs of recovery for the past 3 days. After all, his physique did not have the recovery capabilities of a rank 12 creation like Qinglian. Monkey was excited to be reunited with Su Zimo but was unwilling to rest. Instead, Monkey's condition worsened over the past 3 days. Monkey's injuries could not be dragged on any longer. Furthermore, the two of them were already far away from the Blood Ape world and should be out of danger. Su Zimo found a lifeless star nearby and landed there. He opened up a cave abode to treat Monkey's injuries. Although Monkey's injuries were severe, they were not troublesome for Su Zimo. Making use of the Qinglian bloodline, Su Zimo released his lotus finger and sent streams of rich and pure life force into Monkey's body. Monkey's injuries healed gradually at a faster speed. Around the ghastly bloody hole in his chest, tender granulation was also growing crazily, entangling and connecting together. At this rate, Monkey would be able to recover more or less in less than a day. Monkey recuperated in the cave abode while Su Zimo guarded at the side and rested with his eyes closed. About 4 hours later, Su Zimo sensed something and suddenly opened his eyes, frowning. Just a moment ago, a sense of danger suddenly rose in his heart, but it quickly disappeared. It was like a sudden impulse, or maybe it was just an illusion. At his cultivation realm, a sense of danger as such would definitely not appear out of nowhere, especially with the help of his spirit perception. Monkey's injuries had yet to recover. Su Zimo pondered for a moment before waking Monkey up and sending a voice transmission. We can't stay here for long. Let's leave immediately. When Monkey saw Su Zimo's grim expression, it realized that something was wrong and bounced up from the ground. After the two of them left the cave abode, Su Zimo raised his head and his pupils constricted slightly. According to his senses, there were at least 10 kings hiding around this star. Su Zimo channeled his spirit consciousness and released the phantom of the Yin-Yang paradise, preparing to tear through the void and escape with Monkey. How dare you think of escaping, you two little beasts? Suddenly, a roar reverberated through the world. Immediately after, a huge hand covered in long hair descended from the sky, emitting a destructive aura that enveloped the two of them. Chapter 3000. Rumble. The hairy hand exploded with a suffocating aura. It was thick and vigorous, and before it truly descended, the mountain range beside Su Zimo had already begun to collapse. The huge star beneath their feet began to tremble continuously, and huge cracks appeared on the ground. The earth quaked and the mountains swayed. The place where the two of them were slowly collapsing, and a huge 5-fingered palm print appeared. Too strong. This power could even destroy this star. It had completely exceeded the range that Su Zimo could withstand. The person who attacked was definitely a pinnacle king, even stronger than the Earth Rock King he had killed before. After all, the Earth Rock King was a king past his prime, and the one who attacked was clearly in his prime. Outside the Day-Night Land, Su Zimo had personally killed 2 Pinnacle Kings. However, this did not mean that he could fight against a Pinnacle King head-on. The difference between the two was too great, an entire realm. Back then, the main reason why he could succeed was because Immortal King Yulan was restraining him. Now, the hairy hand had descended and sealed all the space between Su Zimo and the Earth Rock King. The spatial tunnel that he had just opened was crushed by the hairy hand, and he could not escape. Su Zimo activated his essence spirit and released another Grotto Heaven Phantom. Behind him, 2 Grotto Heaven Phantoms, the Yin-Yang Grotto Heaven and the Zenith Heaven Sword Tomb, appeared. Even so, they were still unable to resist the power of the hairy hand. The 2 Grotto Heaven Phantoms had just appeared when they collapsed. However, Su Zimo was still not done with his technique. 8 Fangs Divine Power, for heads, 8 arms, Immortal Slaying Sword, Dragon Elephant, 6 Paths of Reincarnation, Instant Youth, Spacetime Imprisonment, Vermilion Bird Skyfire, Limitless Yin and Yang, 9 Supreme Divine Abilities instantly burst forth. The person who attacked just now was the Red Sea Monkey King who was chasing after Su Zimo. The Red Sea Monkey King sensed Su Zimo's counterattack, and a hint of shock appeared in his eyes, followed by mockery and contempt. A single true spirit comprehended 9 unmatched divine abilities, and could even release them at the same time. This was simply unprecedented, and it truly left him shocked. However, no matter how strong the supreme divine abilities were, they could not threaten him. Even when the 9 supreme divine abilities were stacked together, it was of no use. He didn't even need to use his Scarlet Sea Cave to crush this ant to death. In his opinion, Su Zimo's counterattack was nothing more than the desperate struggle of a trapped beast, a mantis trying to stop a chariot. As expected, the Red Sea Monkey King only felt a slight resistance and pain when the 9 supreme abilities combined with the 2 Grotto Heaven Phantoms clashed against his giant palm. He channeled his chi and blood slightly, and the discomfort disappeared without a trace. The giant palm continued to press down. Suddenly, the Red Sea Monkey King seemed to have sensed something, and its expression changed. Its huge palm trembled and it subconsciously withdrew. His lifespan was decreasing at an alarming rate. He was now 370,000 years old. He still had more than 600,000 years of lifespan left before reaching 1,000,000 years old. But in that instant he had already lost 100,000 years of his lifespan. Just as he was retracting his hand in shock, he lost another 100,000 years of his lifespan. In the blink of an eye, 200,000 years of lifespan had disappeared without any signs of recovery. The Red Sea Monkey King couldn't care less about Su Zimo below. With a furious roar, he instantly released his perfected Grotto Heaven, and a sea of blood appeared behind him. With the arrival of the perfected Grotto Heaven, the loss of lifespan finally stopped, and the crisis was resolved. But even so, he had lost a total of 200,000 years of lifespan. Furthermore, the Red Sea Monkey King was completely baffled and didn't know how he had fallen for it. Su Zimo, who was below, lamented internally when he saw that. In fact, he also knew that even if the 9 supreme divine abilities were stacked together, they would not be able to injure a Pinnacle King. The reason why he released all of them was because he wanted to hide the fleeting youth within so that no one would notice. Only this supreme divine ability could pose a threat to a Pinnacle King. The Red Sea Monkey King was indeed hit, but he reacted extremely quickly. He held up his perfected Grotto Heaven and used an even stronger Dao technique to erase the fleeting youth, escaping from the crisis. Most of the time, Su Zimo would choose opponents who didn't have much lifespan left to release the fleeting youth. Only then would he have a higher chance of killing them in one strike. For a Pinnacle King like the Red Sea Monkey King, even if he lost 200,000 years of his lifespan, he would still be in peak condition and his battle prowess would not decrease. "Let's go!" Su Zimo shouted softly, and 2 divine stones appeared in his eyes. He released the Tai Yin Yang escape art and prepared to escape. In such a battle, the surrounding space would be distorted and shattered. Even a Grotto Heaven King would find it difficult to build a spatial tunnel and leave at will. However, the Tai Yin Yang escape art was not restricted. "Humph. You want to leave?" Just as the Tai Yin Yang escape art was released, 2 reprimands came from both sides. The next moment, a pitch-black staff descended from the sky, emitting an ear-piercing sound. It was powerful and heavy as it smashed toward the top of the monkey's head. The corners of Su Zimo's eyes twitched violently. The power of this staff had clearly reached the level of a Pinnacle King. The second Pinnacle King had arrived. He was already unable to resist a single Peak King, let alone 2 Peak Kings. Moreover, there were at least 10 kings eyeing this star covetously. Before he could react, he suddenly felt his heart palpitate. A large spear pierced out from the side, piercing through the air, heading straight for his chest. Before the spear arrived, he could already smell a strong aura of death. The third Pinnacle King. The two Pinnacle Kings targeted Su Zimo and the monkey respectively. Their attacks were sharp and filled with killing intent. If they could not withstand this attack, both of them would die on the spot, let alone escape. In the blink of an eye, the two of them were on the verge of death. The monkey had yet to recover from its injuries and was completely helpless against the attacks of the Pinnacle Kings. Even so, it still released its bloodline and its eyes were filled with battle intent. Against the Pinnacle Kings, the monkey was still fearless and roared loudly. However, the difference in strength between the two parties was too great. Before the staff of the Pinnacle King descended, the wind created by the staff alone was enough to shatter the 1,000-ton staff in the monkey's hands. An 8th tribulation numinous treasure was completely useless against a grotto heaven numinous treasure. Swoosh. Right then, a tsunami surged within Su Zimo's body as he channeled his bloodline to its limits. A gigantic jade-green Qinglian burst forth from behind him and soared into the skies in an insufferably domineering manner. The 12 circles of lotus leaves bloomed continuously and the Qinglian swayed, causing the cosmos to tremble. Su Zimo's bloodline phenomenon, the grade 12 creation Qinglian. The descent of this bloodline phenomenon instantly drew a few exclamations of bewilderment. The gigantic lotus leaves shielded the monkey's head and protected him beneath them. At the same time, Su Zimo channeled his essence spirit and released his secret skill once more. His left eye was pitch black and his right eye was pure white, releasing 2 beams of light, one black and one white, that landed on the primordial unity horsetail whisk in his hands. Su Zimo wrote 12 mysterious runes in the void rapidly. 6 ding 6 Jiashu, deities and ghosts shall disperse. Su Zimo hollered. The 12 runes transformed into 12 heavenly gods with terrifying auras around him. There were 6 men and 6 women. It was the primordial unity secret skill, 6 ding 6 Jia gods. Chapter 3001. The Grand Unity secret skill was powerful enough. Given the current strength of Su Zimo's essence spirit, the physical body of the 6 ding 6 Jia gods was comparable to that of a peerless king. However, the 6 ding 6 Jia gods were not true kings at the end of the day. They had no blood chi, essence spirit, grotto heavens and could not release any divine powers or secret skills. Furthermore, the two attacking were peak-level kings. The horse-monkey lineage had an extraordinary physique and bloodline and was a melee combat race. 2 peak-level kings could defeat the 6 ding 6 Jia gods with just their physique and bloodline. Su Zimo used all his means but he could only delay them for a moment so that the two of them were not severely injured and died on the spot. Boom. The peak-level king who was charging toward the monkey held a long staff and shattered the bloodline phenomenon of the green lotus of creation with the momentum of splitting mountains. He also defeated all the 6 Liujiayang gods in front of the monkey. There was still some strength left in this strike, and it continued to smash down. Relying on the momentary block of the Yang god, monkey dodged instinctively and retreated, raising its head. It was impossible for monkey to escape the range of the peak-level king's attack. It was already extremely fortunate that he could avoid his head being hit. Bang! The pitch-black rod descended and smashed heavily against monkey's chest with a dull thud. The next moment, a series of crackling sounds came from monkey's body as his bones shattered and his body burst into a blood mist. Monkey was sent flying by the rod and his eyes dimmed as his life force weakened. He had yet to recover from his injuries to begin with and was already on the verge of death after suffering such a heavy blow. When the peak-level king saw that his rod did not kill monkey, he exclaimed softly in surprise. Even with the Yang god's block, his rod was enough to kill monkey instantly. However, when his staff hit the monkey's body, it still encountered some resistance. It was as if he had hit a lump of sand and a lot of the damage was reduced. 9 heavens breath soil. Su Zimo did not leave this top-grade defensive numinous treasure that was derived from the creation Qinglian for himself. Instead, he used it to help monkey resolve a crisis. After all, he was a rank 12 creation Qinglian. Even if he was severely injured, he would have a chance of survival with his powerful regeneration capabilities as long as he did not die on the spot. At the same time, the spear of the 3rd peak-level king pierced through the bodies of the 6 Dingyin gods. Clang! Just as the spear was about to pierce Su Zimo's chest, he summoned the creation lotus platform in front of him and blocked the tip of the spear. Even so, the power that burst out from the spear was still fierce and violent. In an instant, the four-headed, eight-armed Suzimo was beaten back to his original form. Suzimo spat out a large mouthful of blood. His arm that was holding onto the lotus platform of creation had already been broken. His skin had ruptured and blood was dripping, dyeing his green robe red. Suzimo's face was pale, but his eyes were like torches. He was frighteningly calm as he took advantage of the situation to retreat. At this moment, the monkey had just been sent flying by the second Peak King's staff. Before the monkey landed on the ground, Suzimo had just retreated to the monkey's side. With a single hand he pulled the monkey up and threw the monkey on his back. His figure flashed continuously and he escaped into the spatial tunnel that was just condensed. The entire process was as smooth as flowing water, without the slightest pause. Although the two of them were severely injured, they managed to find a gap in the encirclement of three Peak Kings and escaped with their lives. Blocking the attacks of three Peak Kings in succession took a huge toll on Suzimo. In those 2 breaths, Suzimo had released almost all his trump cards. Even his essence spirit could not withstand it and he felt a sense of weakness. Even after escaping into the spatial tunnel, Suzimo knew that the danger was not over yet. He endured the feeling of weakness and pulled himself together. Swallowing an immortal elixir, he activated his essence spirit once more and released many mystic abilities and secret techniques such as ethereal wings, tempest wings, rock wings, and others. Suzimo carried the monkey on his back and the two of them transformed into a streak of golden light that sped through the spatial tunnel. It's actually the creation Qinglian? And it's a grade 12 one. When the Red Sea Monkey King saw the two of them escaping through the dimensional tunnel, its eyes shone with excitement as it murmured softly. It seemed that this time not only could he make use of this opportunity to make trouble for the sanguine ape lineage, but he could also obtain a peerless treasure. At that moment, the remaining dozen or so kings also descended. Damn it, we didn't even have time to seal the surrounding space and that brat escaped. A monkey king gritted his teeth. The Red Sea Monkey King's original plan was for the other kings to work together to seal the space and block all exits for Suzimo and the monkey. Unexpectedly, Suzimo sensed danger and wanted to escape immediately. Therefore the Red Sea Monkey King decisively attacked. The Red Sea Monkey King released his yin-yang eyes again to check. He sneered and said, "This brat can't escape from me. Everyone follow me." The Red Sea Monkey King broke through the void and led the other monkey kings into the spatial tunnel to chase after them. Suzimo carried the monkey on his back and sped through the spatial tunnel at full speed. At the same time, the rank 12 creation Qinglian was also rapidly healing his injuries. His injuries were not serious. However, Monkey was in a terrible mental state and was close to dying. If he could not treat his injuries in time, he might not be able to last long. As Suzimo rushed, he injected wisps of life force into Monkey's body. A moment later, Suzimo sensed something and could not help but turn back with a grim expression. He'd already noticed that a strand of killing intent had surged out from behind him, and it was approaching swiftly. Could it be those kings earlier on? Suzimo's heart sank to the bottom. If he could not shake off the group of monkey kings chasing after him, he would not be able to last long. Even in his peak condition, his speed might not be comparable to a peak king. Furthermore, he was injured, his essence spirit was weak and he was carrying someone on his back. Fufufu. Right then, a series of laughter sounded from behind with a hint of hatred and mockery. "Little beast, you can't escape." As though he did not hear anything, Suzimo continued running without stopping. "First, toss me down and leave by yourself. Cough, cough." Monkey had just opened his mouth when he coughed out fresh blood that splattered onto Suzimo's clothes with a hint of warmth. Suzimo remained silent. "First, I can't make it anymore. If you carry me, we won't be able to escape." Monkey's head drooped weakly on Suzimo's shoulder. His voice was weak and blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth. "What nonsense are you talking about?" Suzimo's eyes were bloodshot as he hollered, "We won't die. We have to live well. We still have to look for the tiger, Ching Ching and the others. At that time, the 7 of us will gather and drink to our heart's content." At the mention of the tiger and Ching Ching, Monkey's eyes shone brightly and he seemed to be in better spirits. Monkey no longer spoke as though he had lost all his strength. His short breaths were filled with a strong stench of blood. "Monkey." As though he wanted Monkey to perk himself up, Suzimo suddenly laughed and said loudly, "I thought of something. Back in Songlang Mountain Range, you carried me on your back and fled the entire way when I was hunted down by the group of people from Joyful Clan?" After a slight pause, Suzimo said, "Today it's my turn to carry you." Scenes from back then flashed past Monkey's eyes. When he heard Su Zimo's words, his eyes gradually moistened. He knew that no matter what happened, Su Zimo would not abandon him, even if it meant death. Chapter 3002. Bro, where are you going now? Monkey asked with a weak voice. I haven't thought about it yet. Su Zimo was thinking of countermeasures as he fled. Wu Dao's true body was currently cultivating in seclusion in hell, and his two true bodies had long lost contact. There was no way he could count on them. If the two of them could rush to the vast wilderness, they would naturally be able to resolve the crisis. However, this place was too far away from the vast wilderness. Given his speed, it would take dozens of days even if he rushed day and night. Furthermore, the Monkey Kings were in hot pursuit. At this rate, the two of them would not be able to last more than a day. How about, cough cough? Monkey had just opened his mouth when he coughed out blood once more. He panted heavily before raising his finger and pointing in a direction. Go there? What's there? Su Zimo asked instinctively. I don't know. Monkey's breathing was weak and his voice was like a mosquito. Su Zimo hesitated for a moment before changing his trajectory and speeding in the direction Monkey pointed. Since he could not think of a better countermeasure at the moment, he might as well follow Monkey's advice and head over to take a look. Perhaps there might be a turn for the better. As Su Zimo sprinted, he channeled pure vitality into Monkey's body. After resting on Su Zimo's back for a moment, Monkey seemed to have recovered some strength and said, Back when I entered the true self realm and condensed my Tao fruit, I awakened the bloodline of the full-armed blood ape. The moment I awakened my bloodline, I sensed that something in this direction seemed to have established a faint connection with my bloodline. However, my cultivation realm was too low and the blood ape world was monitored by the monkeys. I didn't have a chance to leave. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. Could there be an opportunity in that direction that could allow Monkey to completely awaken the full-armed blood ape bloodline? If it were any other time, that would naturally be a huge blessing. However, the two of them were being chased by a group of Monkey Kings and were in a precarious situation. Even if they managed to find such an opportunity, it was hard to predict whether it would be a blessing or a curse. Su Zimo did not stop in his tracks and turned back to take a look. Although he could not see the Monkey Kings in his line of sight, the killing intent behind him was still closing in like a shadow. I still can't shake off these monkeys. Su Zimo frowned. Monkey said, Big brother, the escape technique you just released should involve yin and yang. As for the horse Monkey King that was chasing after our leader, it was the Red Sea Monkey King. It has the bloodline of the red-bone horse monkey and is proficient in both yin and yang. Maybe his yin-yang eyes saw through your escape technique. Su Zimo nodded secretly. In the 3,000 worlds, there were tens of thousands of races. There were countless divine abilities and secret arts that countered each other. Although the Tai Yin-Yang escape art was powerful and could even tear open the void to leave the battlefield, it was not invulnerable. There were always some powerful and mysterious methods that could break it. His cultivation level was still too low. If he could take another step forward, perhaps he could try to fight with his life on the line. With his current cultivation level, he could break through to the Grotto Heaven realm at any time. However, breaking through this great realm was no small matter. He could not be disturbed in any way, nor could he succeed in a short period of time. He was injured and was being pursued by a group of Monkey Kings. There was no chance for him to break through to the Grotto Heaven realm. The two of them fled the entire way. As time passed by, the killing intent behind them closed in and became clearer. About half a day later, Su Zimo turned back and could vaguely make out a few figures. The leader was the Red Sea Monkey King that Monkey mentioned. Su Zimo had a grim expression. If this continued, the two of them would be caught in less than half a day. Right then, a massive devouring power suddenly appeared from the front. Su Zimo focused his gaze and stopped in his tracks hurriedly, his heart skipping a beat. Right in front of the two of them, a gigantic black hole appeared in the spatial tunnel. It emitted a sinister and terrifying aura, as though it wanted to devour and kill everything in the world. Su Zimo was about to change directions and circle around the black hole when Monkey suddenly said, "That feeling has been cut off." Su Zimo was slightly stunned. After pondering for a moment, Su Zimo raised his head once more and glared at the black hole before him with a flickering gaze. Could it be? A thought flashed through Su Zimo's mind. However, this thought was way too crazy and there was a high chance that the two of them would not be able to return. Could it be inside? Monkey asked softly as he thought of this possibility as well. Both of them thought of the same thing. However, it was a black hole in the cosmos after all. When Su Zimo ascended, he had personally experienced the terror of a black hole in the cosmos and had a lingering fear. Once an immortal king expert was trapped within, it would be difficult for them to escape and they would most likely die. If there was another world within the black hole in the cosmos, the two of them might have a chance of survival. However, if this was a true black hole in the cosmos, the two of them would definitely die if they barged in. "You two beasts, why aren't you running anymore?" The Red Sea Monkey King's voice approached with a hint of mockery. "So there's no path ahead. Ah. Let's take a gamble." A look of determination flashed through Su Zimo's eyes as he said in a deep voice, "We won't be able to last much longer even if we continue running. Let's charge in and take a look. Even if we die, we'll die together." "All right." The Monkey King agreed. Su Zimo took a deep breath and charged toward the black hole with the Monkey King on his back. Soon they were swallowed by the black hole and disappeared. The Red Sea Monkey King was enraged when he saw this. He wanted to capture the two of them alive, but he didn't expect the two of them to be so resolute as to charge into the black hole in the cosmos. He couldn't stop them in time. The Red Sea Monkey King caught up and stopped. He looked at the black hole in the cosmos with a gloomy expression. Another Pinnacle King said, "Even with our cultivation we don't dare to step in. Those two true spirits will definitely be annihilated if they barge in. It's just a pity for that rank 12 creation realm Qinglian." The third Pinnacle King smacked his lips in pity. The Red Sea Monkey King clenched his fists tightly and didn't say a word. After chasing for so long, he still didn't get anything in the end. He couldn't accept this. "Those two are dead. Let's retreat." The Pinnacle King beside him said. The Red Sea Monkey King didn't move. He narrowed his eyes and said slowly, "If it's really a black hole in the cosmos, those two will naturally die. But what if it's not?" "You mean?" The other two Pinnacle Kings looked at each other and fell into deep thought. "How do we determine if this black hole is real or fake?" One of the Pinnacle Kings asked. This was the key question. The Red Sea Monkey King raised his eyebrows and didn't say anything. The other two Pinnacle Kings seemed to have thought of something as they each took 2 steps back and put some distance between them. The Red Sea Monkey King suddenly smiled and said, "No rush. Let's wait for the people behind us." Of the 18 Horse Monkey Kings, the Red Sea Monkey King and the other two Pinnacle Kings were the fastest. They followed closely behind Su Zimo and were the first to arrive. As for the remaining kings and ordinary kings, they were much slower. They were like ordinary kings and were even slower than Su Zimo. After a while, the remaining 10-odd kings caught up one after another. End of this chapter. Chapter 3003. Su Zimo carried Monkey on his back and barged into the black hole. Instantly, he lost his 5 senses and also his sense of time and space. There was no sound and no sense of direction. The surroundings were pitch black and an indescribable sense of loneliness surged in his heart. However, that feeling of loneliness vanished before long. The powerful ripping force in the black hole did not appear either. The two of them seemed to have passed through a barrier and entered another space. Indeed, inside this so-called black hole in space, there was a completely different world. Su Zimo hurriedly stabilized his body and spread out his spirit consciousness to survey the surroundings. Both of them were stunned when they saw what was inside. Wherever their gazes landed, corpses were strewn everywhere and countless divine weapons and Dharma treasures were scattered. They extended all the way to the endless void in front of them. It was clear how tragic the battle back then was. This battle had been over for a long time and the flesh on the corpses had long rotted. However, they could still roughly deduce the race of these corpses through their shapes. "This place seems to be," Su Zimo murmured softly and did not continue. Monkey had a shocked expression and widened his eyes. He said slowly, "Most of the people who died here were from the ape race." Su Zimo carried Monkey and walked in the air. When the two of them passed by, they stirred up a slight breeze that blew across the battlefield. Countless corpses and divine weapons were reduced to ashes and scattered in midair. After an unknown amount of time, the corpses of these experts were reduced to dust by the slightest external force. "Look over there." Monkey suddenly pointed to a tattered flag not far away and said, "That's the totem flag of the Stone Monkey lineage." "Stone Monkey lineage?" Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat and he said, "I heard that the Stone Monkey lineage was wiped out at the end of the war epic and has long gone extinct." At this point, the two of them thought of a possibility at the same time. This battlefield should have been left behind from the war epic. It was also because it had been through several epochs that the corpses of these experts were so fragile and dissipated with a single blow of the wind. This doesn't seem like a simple battlefield. Su Zimo looked into the distance and pondered. The two sides of the battlefield were still empty. Only the front of the battlefield was covered with corpses and bones, which continued to spread. It felt as if the path beneath their feet was made up of piles of bones, leading to an unknown place in front of them. At this moment, an ancient stone tablet appeared in front of him. It was covered in the marks of time, and there were 3 large words carved on it that had become blurry. Su Zimo looked at it with rapt attention. After carefully distinguishing it, he subconsciously read it out, "The path to heaven, in the boundless starry sky." When all the horse monkey kings had arrived, the Red Sea Monkey King scanned the crowd. With a flash of his body, he arrived in front of a horse monkey king and said indifferently, "Huang Sha, condense a soul slip and pass it to me." The Yellow Sand Monkey King was taken aback. He asked instinctively, "What is it?" "Cut the crap." The Red Sea Monkey King shouted. This Yellow Sand Monkey King was only at the initial stage of the Grotto Heaven realm. Naturally, he did not dare to go against the Red Sea Monkey King's will. After cursing inwardly, he obediently condensed a soul slip and passed it to the Red Sea Monkey King. The Red Sea Monkey King took the soul slip and looked at the black hole not far away. "Go in and take a look." The Yellow Sand Monkey King was stunned. He stammered, "That's a black hole in space." "Aye," another Pinnacle King said in a deep voice, "those 2 little bastards have already rushed in. There should be another world inside. There shouldn't be any danger. Don't worry." Those who could cultivate to this level were no fools. They could naturally see the Red Sea Monkey King's intentions. The Yellow Sand Monkey King cursed inwardly. "If there's no danger, why don't you go in yourselves and let me take the risk instead?" The Yellow Sand Monkey King's eyes flickered. He wanted to turn around, but he realized that the 3 Pinnacle Kings had already surrounded him, completely blocking all his exits. From the looks of it, even if he did not go, he would be forcefully thrown in by the 3 of them. "Go." The Red Sea Monkey King raised his hand with a cold expression. The Yellow Sand Monkey King's expression was terrible. He gritted his teeth in hatred, but there was nothing he could do. He could only brace himself, hold up a Grotto Heaven, take out all his Dharma treasures and charge in with his eyes closed. The Red Sea Monkey King stared at the Yellow Sand Monkey King's soul slip. 10 breaths. 100 breaths. The soul slip was intact. The Red Sea Monkey King's eyes lit up. Success. If it was truly a black hole in space, the Yellow Sand Monkey King would not even be able to last 10 breaths given his combat strength, let alone 100 breaths. "Let's go." The Red Sea Monkey King thought of Qinglian and charged towards the black hole in space without hesitation. When Su Zimo saw the stone tablet with the words "Path to Heaven," he stopped in his tracks instinctively. Path to Heaven. Could the legendary heavenly courts be at the end of this path? In the Battle of the Great Wilderness, the Arch Azure Flame and the others retreated in defeat and returned to the heavenly courts. Wu Dao's true body chased after them, but he was forced to retreat after feeling a tremendous pressure. From this, it was clear that there was an insurmountable barrier between the heavenly courts and the middle world. There was no path at all. Since there's no path in this world, I'll carve out a path and crush the heavens to reach the heavenly courts. I'll never return. An indescribable sense of desolation and tragedy reverberated in their hearts as they looked at the 3 words on the stone tablet. The path to heaven was a path paved with blood and corpses. Su Zimo felt as though he was looking at an old ape with a high fighting spirit leading the stone monkey lineage to conquer the high and mighty heavenly courts. They were bathed in blood and fought with an indomitable will. Right then, a commotion came from behind the 2 of them. Su Zimo turned back and saw a figure stumbling in. It was a horse monkey king. Su Zimo frowned slightly. He was injured and had used all his trump cards. His essence spirit was greatly depleted after fleeing the entire time. Even if the horse monkey king was only at lesser mastery of the Grotto Heaven realm, he would not be a match for it. Furthermore, there was a high chance that this person was here to scout. Following closely behind would definitely be the Red Sea Monkey King and the others. Su Zimo did not dare to hesitate and hurriedly carried the monkey on his back and continued speeding forward. There was no path on either side and he could only advance along the path to heaven that was piled up with corpses. Perhaps it was not just to escape. At that moment, both Su Zimo and the monkey wanted to follow the footsteps of their predecessors and see where the end of the path to heaven led to. What was the so-called heavenly courts? As the 2 of them advanced continuously and walked further along the path to heaven, the corpses in the surroundings gradually decreased. In fact, some of the corpses did not turn to dust even after several epochs after Su Zimo and the monkey passed by. They were still relatively well preserved. Those who died here might have been Emperor Realm experts back then. Su Zimo sighed internally and lamented. Apart from some experts of the Sanguine Ape lineage, The two of them also saw some heaven bestowment orders scattered around the corpses along the way. From this, it could be seen that an intense battle had broken out between the sanguine ape realm and the heaven bestowment realm before they arrived at the heavenly courts. Chapter 3004. Based on the corpses along the way, the blood ape world should have broken through the obstruction of the celestial tribute world in that battle back then. After that, the great army of the blood ape realm seemed to have marched straight in, and did not encounter much obstruction. For a long period of time after that, there were no corpses and only thick fog gradually appeared. The two of them continued forward. Before long, the number of corpses along the way increased once more, piling up densely. It was clear that after the experts of the blood ape world passed through the celestial tribute world, the battle broke out once more after a relatively peaceful journey. Su Zimo swept his gaze and caught sight of a badge beneath the corpses. Su Zimo did not stop in his tracks and casually picked one up to examine. That badge was not the celestial tribute badge. Its material and shape were similar to the ones that hung on the waists of the people of the heavenly courts. However, the words on the badges were not Yen or Tsang, but Jun. Su Zimo frowned slightly. Yen, Tsang, Jun. What did the three badges represent? Monkey did not speak much after stepping onto the path to heaven. He was already severely injured to begin with. Coupled with the fact that he had witnessed countless corpses of his race along the way, he was mournful and depressed. His condition was deteriorating and he was close to dying. Su Zimo was secretly anxious. Monkey's injuries could not drag on for long. He had to find a safe place as soon as possible to treat Monkey with the lotus finger. However, along the way there were corpses all around and there was no place to hide. The Red Sea Monkey King and the others were chasing closely behind. If they stopped now, the two of them would die even faster. The path to heaven beneath their feet stretched in the void with layers of fog, as though it would never end. Su Zimo perked up once more and sprinted forward for a distance. However, he suddenly stopped in his tracks. The fog ahead dissipated and a thick pitch-black stone pillar appeared. It stood on the path to heaven and almost blocked the entire path. That thick stone pillar would probably require dozens of people to wrap their arms around it. It was filled with cracks and marks of being chiseled by axes. Su Zimo could not make out anything. Carrying Monkey on his back, he followed the edge of the stone pillar and circled around it carefully, intending to continue forward. However, he was stunned the moment he arrived beside the stone pillar. There was no road ahead. Su Zimo looked over and there was only a dark and deep void in front of him. If he continued to move forward, he would really escape into the black hole that had no time, space, direction, and even his five senses. He would die for sure. The reason why he and the monkey were able to remain unscathed in the black hole was entirely because of the existence of this path to heaven. But the path to heaven was cut off here. Su Zimo's eyes dimmed and he sighed softly. Who would have thought that after fleeing for so long on the path to heaven, in the end, it was actually a dead end? Seemingly having heard Su Zimo's sigh, the monkey tried its best to open its eyes and take a look. The first thing he saw was the pitch-black stone pillar in front of him. Big brother, this pillar, cough cough, there's something strange about it. Monkey's aura was weak as he spoke intermittently. Su Zimo narrowed his eyes and looked over. He couldn't help but exclaim softly. The scene before him was as though the path to heaven was cut in half by the gigantic stone pillar beside him. Su Zimo circled the stone pillar and looked at it. He couldn't see the end of the stone pillar at all, as though it stretched between the heavens and earth, reaching the heavens and the nine hells. Indeed, the stone pillar looked strange and unusual. However, Su Zimo still couldn't make out anything from it. He used his spirit consciousness and tried to put the stone pillar into his storage bag, but there was no reaction. Furthermore, the Red Sea Monkey King's group would catch up soon and he didn't have much time to study it. Come closer, Monkey murmured softly. Su Zimo took a step forward and almost leaned against the stone pillar. Monkey grit its teeth and used the last of its strength to raise its blood-stained palm and lean against the pitch-black stone pillar gently. Boom! Suddenly the pitch-black stone pillar trembled and dust fell. The path to heaven shook as well. The next moment, a series of golden lights burst forth from the pitch-black stone pillar that was filled with cracks, dispersing the surrounding fog. Su Zimo looked over. These golden lights were emitted from the marks on the pitch-black stone pillar, and these marks formed two large, wild and unruly characters. Do Zhan. The Red Sea Monkey King's group chased along the path to heaven. There was no sadness or anger in the eyes of the Red Sea Monkey King's group as they looked at the many corpses along the way. Instead, they were unusually excited. The corpses on this path were all left behind at the end of the battle era. The Battle Catalog, a taboo secret scripture created by the Battle Emperor, has been lost for several epochs. Could it be that it was buried here? That's highly possible. The few Monkey Kings discussed in secret. Initially, they thought that they would be able to obtain a simple massacre this time round. To think that they would have the chance to obtain such an opportunity. Naturally, the Red Sea Monkey King thought of that as well and tried his best to suppress the excitement in his heart without showing it on the surface. It was no wonder that the corpses of the battle-era powerhouses had not been seen in the Blood Ape realm. Unexpectedly, they had all died here and no one had discovered them even after several eras. The upper realm was too big. This starry black hole was like a grain of sand in the Ganges River, like a speck of dust in the vast sea of stars. It was very difficult to notice. Even if someone saw it, they would avoid it for fear of being sucked into it. Even if there were great emperors who could withstand the damage of the starry black hole and happened to encounter this starry black hole in the vast sea of stars, why would they rush in rashly? No one knew if there were other dangers in the starry black hole. Great emperors would not rush in for unknown danger zones for no reason. At this moment, a loud sound came from the front. The path to heaven under their feet was shaking slightly. The Red Sea Monkey King and the rest stopped in their tracks subconsciously. They were bewildered, not knowing what had happened. All of a sudden, the fog in front of them was torn apart by rays of golden light. The Red Sea Monkey King and the rest followed the golden light and looked into the distance. Soon they saw the huge and thick pitch-black stone pillar and the two words on it. Battle. The Red Sea Monkey King murmured softly, his eyes shining brightly. If he guessed correctly, this pitch-black stone pillar should be the divine weapon that the Battle Emperor wielded in the past. This divine weapon was obviously destroyed. It was covered in cracks and almost shattered. It no longer had the elegance of an Emperor divine weapon. Even so, the shattered Emperor divine weapon was still indestructible and was a rare treasure. Su Zimo had obtained the Emperor divine weapon, the prison suppression cauldron. It had helped him a lot in his cultivation. The heavens are really helping me. The Red Sea Monkey King was overjoyed. The anger and sadness of losing his son had long disappeared. Now he had the chance to obtain the Grade 12 Creation Qinglian, the Emperor Divine Weapon, and even the Forbidden Secret Manual. He was still thinking to himself, my son, my years of raising you were not in vain. You brought me such a rare opportunity. You died a worthy death. Chapter 3005. Just as everyone was having their own thoughts, the 10,000 rays of golden light that had just bloomed suddenly disappeared. The Red Sea Monkey King and the others didn't have time to think as they hurriedly moved forward. Not long after, everyone arrived in front of the pitch-black stone pillar. There's no path. Everyone quickly noticed that the path to heaven had been cut off behind the black stone pillar. Where are the two people from before? By the time the Red Sea Monkey King and the others arrived, Su Zimo and the monkey had already disappeared. There was no place to hide and the path to heaven had been cut off. It was as if the two had disappeared into thin air. Could it be that they knew they were going to die so they charged into the black hole and died inside? A Monkey King guessed. The Red Sea Monkey King arrived before the black stone pillar and stared at the blood-colored palm imprint on it. His eyes flashed as he said, if I'm not wrong, the two of them should have already hidden inside the Emperor's weapon. Many of the Monkey Kings were slightly startled as a hint of confusion flashed through their eyes. Another Peak-tier king nodded and said, what the Red Sea Monkey King said is very likely. Legend has it that the Emperor of Battle's weapon isn't just a weapon for killing, it's also a spatial weapon. There's a world inside, and the Emperor of Battle's inheritance is very likely to be inside. The Red Sea Monkey King took out a weapon from his interspatial bag and cut his palm. He raised his blood-dripping palm and also imprinted it on the black stone pillar. The black stone pillar didn't react at all. The Red Sea Monkey King frowned slightly as his expression sank. The other two Peak-tier kings rejoiced and hurriedly stepped forward, revealing their bloodlines and dripping their blood on the black stone pillar. Their blood fell on the black stone pillar, but it still didn't react. The two Peak-tier kings' expressions also sank. When the remaining Monkey Kings saw this, they all stepped forward and released their bloodlines. However, the black stone pillar still didn't react. What's going on? Could it be that our bloodlines aren't good enough? According to what I know, the Emperor of Battle had the bloodline of the long-armed blood ape. The monkeys discussed in low voices. It shouldn't have anything to do with bloodlines. The Red Sea Monkey King suddenly said, if it's related to bloodlines, it's understandable that the long-armed blood ape entered. But why was that human able to hide inside as well? All the Monkey Kings nodded silently. In terms of bloodline distance, their bloodlines had an advantage over Su Zimo's human bloodline. The Red Sea Monkey King suddenly smiled and said, "It's no big deal to let them beat us to it." "What brilliant plan does Brother Chi-Hai have?" the two Peak Kings hurriedly asked. The Red Sea Monkey King said, "This divine combat weapon is already ownerless. Although we can't enter the space inside, we can try to refine it." The eyes of the two Peak Kings lit up. If it was a real great Emperor divine weapon, it would be impossible for them to refine it. However, this divine battle weapon was severely damaged and was no longer what it used to be. Perhaps even the weapon's spirit had already dissipated. If he could refine it and turn it into his own divine weapon, he would naturally be able to enter it freely, control everything, and obtain the inheritance. A Monkey King said, "After all, it's a great Emperor divine weapon. Even if it's broken, it won't be easy to refine it. It might take hundreds or thousands of years. By that time, the blood ape inside should have already obtained the inheritance." Hee hee. The Red Sea Monkey King snickered and said, "So what if he obtained all the inheritances of the great Emperor? That blood ape is only at the Kongming stage, and that human is only at the Paradise stage. Can those two little bastards really do anything? Don't forget that we're surrounded by a black hole that isolates everything, including heaven, earth, Yuan Qi." The Monkey King suddenly understood. The secret of the Grotto Heaven was to open a chamber outside one's body that could reach the heavens and absorb heaven, earth, Yuan Qi. However, their Grotto Heavens couldn't absorb heaven, earth, Yuan Qi inside the black hole. Only the Red Sea Monkey King and the other two Peak Kings, who had cultivated their Grotto Heavens to the peak and were on the path to the heavens, could absorb some heaven, earth, Yuan Qi through the power of the black hole. The two inside the black stone pillar were only true spirits. Inside this black hole that isolated everything, even if they obtained the great Emperor's inheritance in heaven, earth, Yuan Qi, there wouldn't be any substantial increase in strength. Not to mention breaking through a major realm, even advancing a minor realm was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Another Peak King said, "It's worth it even if we wait 10,000 years or even 100,000 years with those two, let alone a few 100,000 years." The Red Sea Monkey King looked at the remaining 10-odd Monkey Kings and said, "You've all come with me, and once we obtain the great battle Emperor's inheritance, we'll naturally give all of you some benefits." The Monkey Kings became spirited and revealed joyful expressions. The Red Sea Monkey King and the other two Peak Kings glanced at each other and did not say anything. The most important reason why the Red Sea Monkey King said these words was to keep the other Horn Monkey Kings here. If someone left and told the emperors in their race about this, they definitely wouldn't have a chance to obtain the great battle Emperor's inheritance. Let's not waste any time. Let's begin. The Red Sea Monkey King and the two Peak Kings discussed for a while before sitting down in front of the black stone pillar. A complete Grotto Heaven appeared behind them as they started to refine it. After the Red Sea Monkey King finished refining it, he could slowly recover heaven, earth, Yuan Qi. The second Peak King went up. The three of them could keep the great battle Emperor's Grotto Heaven in order to refine it. The remaining ordinary kings and peerless kings didn't participate. They couldn't absorb heaven, earth, Yuan Qi from here to refine the great battle Emperor's Grotto Heaven. Once they exhausted their heaven, earth, Yuan Qi, it would be extremely difficult to recover. The Red Sea Monkey King and the others guessed correctly. Su Zimo and the monkey had indeed entered the black stone pillar. It was only natural that the monkey could enter. When the monkey had awakened its bloodline, it had already sensed the summoning. He was rather surprised that Su Zimo could also enter. The two hid in the great battle Emperor's Grotto Heaven and paid attention to the commotion outside. When they saw that the Red Sea Monkey King and the others couldn't enter, the two heaved a sigh of relief and completely relaxed. No matter what, at least they were temporarily out of danger. Su Zimo looked around. This place was rather spacious with bare walls all around. There were no miscellaneous items and he could see everything at a glance. "I'll heal you first." Su Zimo got the monkey to sit in front of him and used the creation Qinglian bloodline to execute the lotus finger. Streams of pure life energy entered the monkey's body. In just a day the monkey had mostly recovered. Its face was rosy and its breathing was stable. "Big brother, I'm fine." Monkey knew that Su Zimo was injured. He had carried him on his back the entire time and had even treated him. Therefore he had expended a lot of energy. Bouncing up, he stretched his muscles and a series of crackling sounds could be heard from his body. Su Zimo nodded. He just needed to rest for a while. With the recovery ability of the rank 12 creation Qinglian, he would be able to recover to his original state. Chapter 3006. Strange. The monkey scratched his head and said, If Big Brother can enter this place, why can't these monkeys enter? Su Zimo glanced at the group of monkey experts guarding outside. His gaze fell on the Fengtian medallion at their waists, and he seemed to understand something. Back then, the Emperor of Dozhan had fought against the Fengtian world on the path to heaven. Now, these monkey kings had chosen to submit to the Fengtian world. With the Fengtian medallion at their waists, this battle-divine weapon would never allow such people to enter. The Emperor of Dozhan had died many years ago, leaving only this weapon standing alone in the starry black hole. If the Emperor of Dozhan still had a bit of power left, Su Zimo and the monkey would have killed these monkey kings without needing to do anything. As for why Su Zimo could enter this place, he guessed that it was very likely related to the Emperor of Dozhan's projection that Wu Dao's original body had seen when he accepted the true marshal's 10th tribulation. Perhaps because of this battle-divine weapon did not reject him. The two rested here for another day before preparing to take a look around. Su Zimo said, according to the monkeys outside, the Emperor of Dozhan might have left his inheritance here. Monkey, this is your opportunity. It's useless even if you get the Emperor's inheritance. The monkey shrugged slightly and glanced at the Red Sea Monkey King and the others outside. If they guard outside, we'll never be able to get out. This place isolates the heaven and earth Yuan Qi. If we waste time here, we won't be able to enter the Grotto Heaven realm. We won't be able to last as long as those kings. It's fine. Su Zimo patted the monkey's shoulder and smiled. If they keep guarding outside, they'll all die here. Ha! The monkey blinked, not understanding where Su Zimo's confidence came from. Su Zimo briefly explained the situation of Wu Dao's original body to the monkey. He had indeed lost contact with Wu Dao's original body. But he knew that Wu Dao's original body was in seclusion in hell. The crisis of the Great Wilderness had yet to be resolved. If nothing went wrong, Wu Dao's true body would return to the Great Wilderness from the Infernal Court in 200 to 300 years, and the two true bodies would re-establish their connection. If Wu Dao's true body could rush over, none of these monkey kings would be able to escape. Of course, there was a prerequisite. Wu Dao's original body could help Dai Yu survive the next calamity of the Great Wilderness. Su Zimo and Monkey looked around and didn't see any way out. This place was like an empty secret chamber. There's something strange about this wall. Su Zimo stood in front of a wall. He stretched out his hand and gently stroked the cold stone wall. There were many protrusions on this stone wall, and the corners were clearly defined. However, it was covered by a thick layer of dust, making it hard to see clearly. Su Zimo waved his sleeves, bursting out a burst of true essence, shaking off the dust on the wall and stared at it. Su Zimo looked at the stone wall and exclaimed softly. There was a huge relief sculpture carved on the stone wall. It was a 30-meter-tall ape with a burly figure and extremely long arms. It held a pitch-black staff in its hand, and its eyes were tightly shut as it stood upright with its head held high. The relief sculpture on the stone wall was extremely lifelike and could be said to be a work of the gods. Even the fur on the ape's body could be seen clearly and was extremely exquisite. The appearance of this ape looked somewhat familiar. There were 4 words written at the bottom of the relief sculpture. Battle Soul, Monkey murmured softly as though it had thought of something. Its eyes were filled with joy as it was about to speak. Suddenly, the ape sculpture on the stone wall opened its lantern-sized eyes that shone with a scarlet blood light. Opening its mouth, it let out a deafening roar towards Su Zimo and Monkey. Roar! The relief sculpture was extremely tall to begin with. Now that it seemed to have awakened and come alive, it let out an unstoppable battle intent that surged over with its roar. Caught off guard, Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat as he took a step back instinctively. His eyes met with the blood eyes of the relief sculpture. In a daze, Su Zimo seemed to have entered another space. Monkey had already disappeared and a young sanguine ape stood opposite him. The sanguine ape looked exactly the same as the relief sculpture. Behind the sanguine ape stood the figure of a 100 feet tall sanguine ape. Su Zimo finally recalled where he had seen the sanguine ape before. When the true marshal's 10th heavenly tribulation descended, it revealed an old ape with white fur. If the old ape was younger, it should have the appearance of the sanguine ape before him. The sanguine ape before him was the young emperor of Dozhan. Senior, let's fight. Su Zimo had just opened his mouth when he was interrupted by the emperor of Dozhan's loud roar. Before he could react, the emperor of Dozhan had already raised his long staff and launched a fierce attack on him. The sanguine ape's cultivation level was the same as his. However, with the help of the 100-foot-tall figure behind him, the Emperor of Dozhan's combat power had increased by more than 2 times. The Emperor of Dozhan's attacks were too fierce, and Su Zimo could only fight back. At first he still had some leeway. However, he was facing the Emperor of Dozhan after all. Even though he was young, his combat talent was still extremely terrifying. Su Zimo held back and quickly fell into a disadvantage. He was completely suppressed by the Emperor of Dozhan's attacks and kept retreating. The battle went on for a long time, and Su Zimo had been passively defending. However, the Emperor of Dozhan seemed to be tireless. The more he fought, the more courageous he became. Su Zimo kept retreating, but the Emperor of Dozhan was aggressive and seemed to want to kill him. Even though he respected the Emperor of Dozhan, he was gradually angered by the beating. Humph! Su Zimo directly used the supreme four-headed, eight-armed ability. He held the Qingping sword, the Tai horsetail whisk, the three treasures Jade Rui scepter, the lotus platform of creation, and many other divine weapons and numinous treasures to counterattack. Although the Emperor of Dozhan was powerful and brave, he could not withstand Su Zimo's four-headed, eight-armed ability. Before long he was severely injured by Su Zimo. "You win," the Emperor of Dozhan said. The next moment, everything around him disappeared. Su Zimo was still standing in the same spot. He did not move at all. The scene just now seemed to be an illusion. The monkey was standing not far from him. His entire body was tense and sweating profusely. He frowned as if he was in a special state. Su Zimo pondered for a moment and did not rashly go forward to disturb him. He only looked at the relief on the stone wall thoughtfully. Not long after, the monkey suddenly let out a loud cry and woke up, panting heavily. "Did you just enter a special space and see an extremely powerful sanguine ape?" Su Zimo described what he had just encountered to the monkey. The monkey's experience was almost the same as his. However, the Emperor of Dozhan that the monkey met was at the same cultivation level as the monkey. "Big brother, this is the Emperor of Dozhan's inheritance." The monkey clenched his fists slightly and seemed to have understood something. "So the Emperor of Dozhan's taboo, the Dozhan catalogue, is not a picture but a relief." As soon as he finished speaking, cracks appeared on the stone wall in front of them. The relief collapsed along with the stone wall. The smoke and dust dissipated. After passing through the ruins, the two saw the relief on the second stone wall. Chapter 3007. The Blood Ape realm also has mystic techniques that can increase the combat strength of one's physical body, bloodline, and essence spirit. However, they are not as powerful as the battle catalog. This is a powerful mystic technique that can help us fight above our level. Monkey said, "Back then the Emperor of Dozhan was invincible and created an epic because of the battle catalog. Increase the combat strength of one's physical body and bloodline?" Su Zimo murmured softly. Monkey continued, "The battle soul is the foundation of the battle catalog. The deeper you cultivate this mystic manual, the battle soul will also grow and increase your combat strength." Rumble. On the second wall there was a burst of shaking. Dust and sand rustled and fell, revealing the lifelike reliefs on it. Su Zimo and Monkey turned to look. On the second wall, apart from the relief of the Emperor of Dozhan, there were countless cultivators surrounding him. There were dragons that soared through the clouds, Protoss that shone brightly, Heavenly Eye race that had heavenly eyes, Kuan race that had gigantic bodies. Thousands of races stood on this tall wall and surrounded the Emperor of Dozhan. 1,000 feet tall battle soul condensed behind the Emperor of Dozhan. It looked exactly like him and had a violent aura. It was roaring at the thousands of races with a torrential battle intent. Although the relief was still, Su Zimo and Monkey could almost see the experts of the thousands of races joining forces and launching a fierce attack against the Emperor of Dozhan. Below the relief there were 4 words engraved. "Battle thousands of races." What a bold move. Throughout history, the Emperor of Dozhan was probably the only one who dared to say that he would battle thousands of races. The relief of the Emperor of Dozhan suddenly opened its eyes and looked at Su Zimo and Monkey. The two of them separated again and entered different spaces. Su Zimo faced the Emperor of Dozhan once again. Their cultivation realms were still the same. However, there was an additional 1,000 feet tall battle soul behind the Emperor of Dozhan. In this battle, Su Zimo could clearly sense that the Emperor of Dozhan's combat strength had increased even more. Previously, the Emperor of Dozhan's combat power had only increased by 2 times. Now his combat power had increased by 4 times. Of course, an increase of 4 times was not much of a threat to Su Zimo. He released 3 heads and 6 arms and controlled the Qingping sword and many other spirit treasures and Dharma artifacts. With 1 or 2 divine powers, he easily defeated the Dozhan Emperor. Su Zimo exited the space once again. After 2 exchanges, Su Zimo had a rough understanding of the battle catalog. This forbidden secret manual could enhance a cultivator's physical body, blood force and primordial spirit power. After condensing a 100 feet fighting soul, one's strength would increase by 2 times. When the fighting soul grew to 100 feet, it would enter the second stage where it would be 4 times stronger. From the looks of it, there seemed to be nothing special about this secret manual. Su Zimo currently possessed a supreme sacred art that could increase his fighting strength, the octagonal divine power. After releasing it, his fighting strength could even increase by 8 times. Under normal circumstances, it would be enough to cultivate just one of these methods to increase one's combat strength. Even if 2 secret techniques were released at the same time, they could not be stacked together. Of course, Su Zimo knew that since it was a forbidden secret manual, it should not be so simple. Monkey had yet to escape from the space of the second relief sculpture. Su Zimo waited patiently at the side. He was not worried about Monkey's situation. According to his guest, the inheritance of the Dozhan Emperor was similar to a test. As long as Monkey could pass the Dozhan Emperor's test, he would be able to escape from that space. As expected, Monkey woke up 7 days later. He looked extremely exhausted and had expended a lot of energy. The two of them rested for a few days. After recovering, they headed for the third relief sculpture. There was only the back view of the Dozhan Emperor on the third relief sculpture. Compared to the previous 2 relief sculptures, the Dozhan Emperor looked stronger and bullier. Be it in terms of size or age, he had already reached his peak state. Beneath the Dozhan Emperor's feet was a boundless starry sky. Behind him was a battle soul that was 1,000 feet tall. It looked down on the world with an unruly expression. There were 4 words at the bottom of the third relief sculpture. Within the Dozhan universe. At this moment, the Dozhan Emperor turned around and glanced at the 2 of them. The 2 of them entered the strange space again. But this time, the Emperor of Dozhan that Su Zimo was up against had increased his combat strength by more than 8 times. Even he felt a trace of pressure. Su Zimo did not dare to be careless. He released the 8 Fangs divine power and increased his battle power by 8 times. Then he fought with the Dozhan Emperor. The Dozhan Emperor was indeed very brave. Even when facing Su Zimo, who had mastered 9 supreme superpowers, he was still fearless and attacked fiercely. The 2 of them fought back and forth. Su Zimo used his 4-headed and 8-armed state to release 9 supreme superpowers and defeated the Dozhan Emperor. After leaving the space, Su Zimo fell into deep thought. The first level of the Dozhan catalog, Dozhan Soul, increased his battle power by 2 times. The second level, Dozhan Tribe, increased his battle power by 4 times. The third level, Dozhan Universe, increased his battle power by 8 times. If there was a 4th level, it was very likely that there would be a qualitative change and increase his battle power by 16 times. This time, the monkey stayed in that space for a long time, as long as 10 years. After all, facing the Dozhan Emperor whose battle power had increased by more than 8 times, not everyone wanted to be like Su Zimo and be able to pass through relatively easily. After the monkey had recuperated for a while, the 2 of them walked toward the 4th relief sculpture. On the 4th relief sculpture, the Dozhan Emperor had become extremely old. The hair on his body was also gray and white. Only his blood-red eyes were still bursting with a strong battle intent. Behind the Dozhan Emperor, the Dozhan battle soul had already reached 10,000 feet tall. On this stone wall, the Dozhan Emperor stood on a quietly flowing river, allowing the river to wash his body. The 4th relief sculpture, Dozhan Ancient and Modern. The 2 of them entered the strange space again. Just as Su Zimo expected, this time, the Dozhan Emperor's battle power had increased by more than 16 times. Even if he used all his trump cards, the 9 supreme abilities, and the 2 grotto heavens of the Yin-Yang grotto heaven and the Daluo sword tomb, he still couldn't defeat the Dozhan Emperor. The Dozhan Emperor struck down with his staff and shattered his grotto heavens, dispersing them on the spot. The first battle between the 2 ended with Su Zimo's crushing defeat. Su Zimo recuperated and fought with the Dozhan Emperor again. The second battle was also a crushing defeat. Every time they fought, he was defeated again and again. Su Zimo was constantly beaten by the Dozhan Emperor in this space. He couldn't remember how many times he had been defeated. But as time passed, under the Dozhan Emperor's constant beating, the 4 relief sculptures flashed in his mind, and a trace of understanding gradually emerged in his heart. The so-called battle soul was formed with battle intent as the foundation and the power of the primordial spirit as the activation. The stronger the battle intent, the stronger the battle soul, and the greater the increase in a cultivator's battle power. Chapter 3008. The inheritance of the battle catalog was too unique. This taboo mystic tome didn't have any cultivation techniques or incantations. What was passed down from the reliefs was actually the Emperor of Battle's battle intent. That kind of fearless and indomitable spirit that battled the heavens and earth. All of the Dao techniques and Dao runes were contained in the repeated exchanges with the Emperor of Battle. Su Zimo didn't understand at first and didn't even dare to believe it. Both of them had the same cultivation realm and he had comprehended 9 supreme divine powers. How could he not defeat the Emperor of Battle? Even if the 4th level of the battle catalog, Battle of the Ancient and Modern, could increase the Emperor of Battle's battle strength by as much as 16 times, he should still be able to fight with a 100,000 feet battle soul. However, as his comprehension of the battle catalog grew deeper and deeper, he gradually realized the profoundness and difference within it. Simply put, the first 3 levels of the battle catalog were still within common sense and could be considered a superior cultivation technique. After all, Su Zimo had also comprehended a supreme divine power that could increase his battle strength by 8 times. The first 3 levels weren't at the level of a taboo mystic tome. But in the 4th level, Battle of the Ancient and Modern, the battle catalog underwent a complete transformation and made a qualitative leap. This transformation wasn't just an increase in battle strength. It was an increase in the level of the Dao technique. Su Zimo's octagonal divine power was only a supreme divine power after all. Due to the restriction of the level of the Dao technique, the octagonal divine power couldn't increase the power of the Grotto Heaven realm. It could only increase battle strength on the basis of the True Self realm. In other words, once Su Zimo stepped into the Grotto Heaven realm, this supreme divine power's increase in battle strength would be negligible. But the 4th level of the battle catalog was different. This was an even higher level Dao technique. Even if Su Zimo stepped into the Grotto Heaven realm, he could still use the Dao techniques of the Ancient and Modern to increase his battle strength on the basis of the Grotto Heaven realm. And it was 16 times. It was precisely because of the suppression of the Dao technique that the Emperor of Battle could defeat Su Zimo time and time again. For example, although the Emperor of Battle looked like he was at the True Self realm, he brought out a perfected Grotto Heaven to smash over. Su Zimo naturally couldn't block it. This was not a power that a True Self realm cultivator could control. The true Emperor of Dozhan couldn't control the Ancient and Modern Battle at the True First realm. The reason why such a scene could occur was entirely due to the fact that they were in this strange space. The Emperor of Dozhan's ultimate goal was not to defeat Su Zimo. Instead, he wanted to pass down Su Zimo's fighting spirit through constant battles. In this strange space, Su Zimo stayed the longest. Year after year, along with the passage of time, Su Zimo gradually came into contact with the profundities of ancient and modern battles, and he finally understood why the 4th level of the battle catalog was able to rise to another level in Dao arts and increase combat strength by 16 times. From the initial battle soul, to the battle myriad tribe, and then to the battle universe, the battle emperor's battle intent was constantly increasing. In the beginning he had only condensed a war soul. Then he had become the enemy of tens of thousands of races. Then he had become the ruler of the world and looked down on the universe. And fighting from the past to the present was even more daring. The Emperor of Battle wanted to step on the river of time and go against the flow to battle the top experts that had emerged in this world in the past. The river flowing behind the Emperor of Battle was the river of time. During this process, the Emperor of Battle's body was constantly being washed away by the river of time, and his lifespan was constantly decreasing at a terrifying rate. 10,000 years in one breath. The lost lifespan would never be recovered. He had sacrificed his lifespan in exchange for such a powerful mystic technique. The essence, chi, and spirit of this mystic technique perfectly matched the Emperor of Battle's battle intent. Advancing courageously and never turning back. A Grotto Heaven king had a lifespan of 1,000,000 years. Excluding the period of cultivation before becoming a king and the declining years of combat strength, he could only maintain the ancient and modern battle state for a few 100,000 years. 10,000 years in one breath was just a few dozen breaths, and it would pass in the blink of an eye. But in these few dozen breaths, using the ancient and modern battle techniques, he could push his combat strength to the peak and sublimate to the extreme. Before he knew it, Su Zimo had already stayed in this strange space for 100 years. After 100 years of tempering, the Emperor of Battle had already passed down all the battle intent of the ancient and modern battle. The battle soul behind him was gradually fading and would disappear at any time. And the battle soul behind Su Zimo was becoming more and more solid. Finally, Su Zimo escaped from the space of the 4th relief sculpture. This time the monkey was a few years earlier than him. The 4th relief sculpture collapsed and turned into dust. The two of them passed by the fourth relief sculpture and continued forward to see the fifth relief sculpture. The fifth relief sculpture depicted the Emperor of Battle in his declining years. His hair was white all over and he held a long staff pointing angrily at the universe and roaring loudly. At the bottom of the fifth relief sculpture there were 4 words. Battle 9 Heavens. In the next instant, Su Zimo and the monkey entered the strange space again. And this time the two of them escaped from that strange space in an instant. The fifth relief sculpture collapsed and turned into dust. The battle catalog had a total of 5 levels. The inheritance of this forbidden mystic technique had ended. Su Zimo and the monkey exchanged glances, both somewhat confused. They all encountered the same situation in their respective strange spaces. The old Emperor of Battle launched an attack against the two of them. A terrifying battle intent surged over like a tidal wave, drowning the two of them instantly. The next moment the two of them woke up. Compared to the first 4 levels, the inheritance of the 5th level was incomparably short. Before the two of them could even react, it had already ended. What was the Dao technique of the 5th level? According to the development of the battle catalog, there would be an even more obvious increase in combat strength at the 5th level of the Battle 9 Heavens. But why was the inheritance so short and ended in an instant? The two of them conversed but did not gain anything. Su Zimo pondered for a moment and analyzed, perhaps our cultivation is insufficient and we can't understand the true essence of the Battle 9 Heavens. Monkey nodded and looked at the situation outside. He frowned and said, those monkeys haven't left yet. Those dogs are really patient. There was still no news from Wu Dao's true body. The two of them could not leave this place for the time being and could only continue searching. Let's take a look over there. The monkey seemed to have sensed something and pointed in a direction. Before walking far, the monkey felt the bloodline in his body stir and become rather restless. A hint of blood flashed in his eyes. And Su Zimo also detected something amiss. The front was gloomy and the death chi was extremely thick. The two of them continued walking for a while more and stopped at the same time. More than a dozen tombs appeared in front of them. Ancient tombstones stood on them, writing the identities of the owners of these tombs. The owners of these tombs were all experts of the blood ape world back then. On the path to ascension to heaven, they followed the Emperor of Battle and fought to the last moment before finally falling and being buried here. Chapter 3009. The two of them stood solemnly in front of these tombs. In the end, there were only a dozen people left beside the Emperor of Dozhan. One could imagine how tragic the battle back then was. In the middle of these tombs, there were 4 large pits soaked in blood. After a few eras, the blood had long become dark and lusterless. However, it had not dried up yet. Emperor blood. The monkey came to a large pit and pointed at the blood in it. The bloodline here is similar to mine. It should be the blood of the long-armed blood ape. Su Zimo nodded. Normally speaking, even the blood of an Emperor realm expert can't be preserved for several eras without being destroyed. The Emperor blood should also contain the legacy of the Dao techniques left behind by these emperors when they were alive. As long as the Dao techniques were not destroyed, the Emperor blood would be preserved. Different from the battle catalog, this was an opportunity that belonged to the monkey. Only the sanguine ape race could accept the bloodline of the long-armed blood ape and inherit the Dao techniques within. Monkey looked at the other 3 pits and sniffed them. With a look of pity, he said, the bloodlines in these 3 pits are the spiritual stone monkey, the 6-eared macaque and the red-bone horse monkey. The emperors who died here probably thought that the descendants of the stone monkey, macaque and horse monkey bloodlines would come here to inherit their Dao techniques and awaken their bloodlines. Unfortunately, Su Zimo came to the tombs and felt that something was amiss. These tombs gave him an unimaginable sense of oppression. The tombs of only a dozen emperors could not reach this level. This feeling of oppression was familiar. He had felt it in the Avicii Hell, under the Demon Cave and in the Emperor's tomb. Those buried in these 3 places were all emperors from back then. Su Zimo looked at his feet and thought of a possibility. Below these tombs, there were probably not only more than a dozen emperors buried, but also the Emperor of Dozhan of back then. The Emperor of Dozhan's tomb was buried in his divine weapon back then. Su Zimo's heart jolted as if he had thought of something. A ball of brilliance blossomed from his eyes as he muttered, perhaps there's no need to alarm Wu Dao's true body. The monkey jumped into the pool of blood. Half of its body was covered in blood, and the blood in its body was boiling. It roared at the sky and the veins on its neck were exposed. It was enduring great pain. The bloodline of the long-armed blood ape in this blood pool was most likely left behind by the Emperor of Dozhan. Even if several epochs had passed, The remaining power in the blood of a great emperor was not to be underestimated. If an outsider were to come into contact with the great emperor's blood, they would most likely be instantly killed by the power contained within. After all, the monkey had already awakened the bloodline of the long-armed blood ape. However, the degree of awakening was not great. Now that he had the help of the great emperor's blood, the power of the monkey's blood and chi surged. The power of the blood pool would do its best to help the monkey improve his bloodline as much as possible. Su Zimo also sat beside the tomb and began to cultivate in seclusion. The blood pool and the Tao arts within were indeed the monkey's fortuitous encounter. And this graveyard was very likely to help him take the most crucial step. At the same time, in the infernal court, Wu Dao's main body slowly woke up in front of the cold hell spring. He opened his eyes and let out a light breath. Over the years, the Yuanwu Grotto Heaven had absorbed and refined many Grotto Heaven fragments. He had long reached the edge of a breakthrough and was only one step away. Moreover, he had already refined the Hell Sutra of the Nine Springs and integrated it into Wu Dao's domain. However, he was still a little short of stepping into the Arch Realm and forming a world. Wu Dao's main body stood up and prepared to enter the cold hell spring and go against the flow to the Styx River. Firstly, the infernal court was incomplete, and the Tao arts were incomplete. If he cultivated here, it would be extremely difficult for the Yuanwu Grotto Heaven and Wu Dao's domain to break through. Secondly, Wu Dao's main body wanted to borrow the power of the Styx River to cultivate. The Nine Springs of Hell already possessed incredible power. The source of the Nine Springs, the Styx River that nurtured the river of life in the ghost world, must contain even more mysterious power. Wu Dao's main body stood up and jumped into the mouth of the cold hell spring. He controlled his body to sink. Back then, when he first entered the mouth of the bitter spring, he had just cultivated Wu Dao's domain. When he went against the flow, he encountered great resistance. He even had to activate his bloodline to resist. Now, Wu Dao's domain had cultivated the power of the world, and he had also become a quasi-emperor. In addition, he had already comprehended the Hell Sutra of the Nine Springs and integrated it into his Tao body and domain. The power of the cold hell spring had no effect on him. The deeper he fell, the darker his surroundings became. In the deepest part of the cold hell spring there was no light. Wu Dao's main body's eyes burned with two balls of purple flames. Only then could he see his surroundings clearly. When he reached the depths of the cold hell spring, Wu Dao's main body went against the flow of the water around him. After an unknown period of time, the scene before him suddenly opened up and light was restored. At the end of Wu Dao's main body's line of sight, there were 9 great rivers with waves. They were like galaxies that spanned across endless time and space, exuding completely different auras as they rolled over. One end of these 9 great rivers led to hell, forming the 9 springs of hell. And the other end was the most mysterious river Styx in the infernal court. The river Styx was dark and gloomy. It flowed quietly, but every drop of river water seemed to contain supreme power, enough to destroy the world. Back then, when Wu Dao's main body came here for the first time, he couldn't hold on for long in the river Styx. He couldn't even break through the water surface and could only retreat in the end. And now Wu Dao's main body stepped into the river Styx once again. This time, Wu Dao's main body propped up Wu Dao's purgatory and activated his bloodline to resist the tremendous pressure brought by the river Styx. He continued to move upward. He wanted to break through the water surface and come above the river Styx to see what was going on. Below the river Styx, there seemed to be endless hands that kept tugging at his body, wanting to pull him down. However, things were different now. Although Wu Dao's main body was only a quasi-emperor, his combat strength could suppress peerless imperial emperors. The Wu Dao's purgatory that was surrounded by blazing flames continued to rise. In the river Styx, even the power of Wu Dao's purgatory was suppressed to the limit. But after an unknown period of time, Wu Dao's main body finally broke through the water surface and arrived above the river Styx. Wu Dao's main body stood on the water and looked over. The surroundings were dark. He couldn't see anything, nor was there any aura of life. It was dead silent. Wu Dao's main body frowned slightly and continued to move against the direction of the river Styx. If the source of the 9 springs of hell was the river Styx, then what was the source of the river Styx? As he continued to go deeper and further against the river Styx, the pressure from the front became greater and greater. Wu Dao's main body even felt a throbbing in his heart. Dai Yu had once said that there was a great terror at the end of the river Styx. As expected. At this moment, Wu Dao's main body suddenly felt a strange movement in Wu Dao's domain. Many thanks to Yi Luo Fengfei for the 30,000 book coins tip. I'm ashamed that I haven't been doing well recently. End of chapter. Chapter 30:10. In Wu Dao's purgatory, there were 6 types of supreme flames. Among them, the Netherworld Ghost Fire, Calamity Fire, Dragon Phoenix Flame, Hellfire, and Martial Soul Flame were all suppressed after coming to the Nether River. Only the Red Lotus Karmic Fire was not affected much. Moreover, just now, the Red Lotus Karmic Fire in Wu Dao's purgatory deviated again, as if it was attracted by something. More than 100 years ago, when Wu Dao's original body came to the infernal world and released the Red Lotus Karmic Fire, this happened. This mysterious attraction appeared again. Wu Dao's original body frowned slightly. The direction of this attraction was neither following the direction of the Nether River nor going against the flow, but crossing the Nether River. Wu Dao's original body fell into deep thought and did not act rashly. The direction of crossing the Nether River made him even more uneasy. After a long while, Wu Dao's original body did not choose to cross the Nether River. Instead, he floated in the Nether River, no longer controlling his body. He used the Heaven and Earth Furnace to refine the power in the Nether River while following the flow. Wu Dao's original body fell into a strange state. He was in seclusion in the Nether River, deducing and perfecting his Dao. The source of the 9 springs of hell was the Nether River. Wu Dao's original body was immersed in the Nether River, which could help him better understand the mystery of this forbidden secret manual and transform it into his own strength. Time flew. Wu Dao's original body had been floating in the Nether River for 100 years. In the past 100 years he had only woken up 4 times. Every time he woke up, it was because his perception in the Nether River had changed. The first time he woke up, Wu Dao's original body was horizontal in the Nether River. Suddenly he felt a powerful demonic battle intent, filled with monstrous hatred and violent anger. He had felt this aura from the Shura tribe before. At the same time, a branch of the Nether River flowed in that direction. The Shura realm? Wu Dao's original body thought of a possibility. Back then he had a conjecture when he talked with Daiyu. It was very likely that the river Styx had 7 tributaries that led to the 6 realms in the underworld. This was because Daiyu had once gone against the flow of the waterfall in the Beast realm, entered the Nether River, and then fell into the underworld. The source of the 9 springs of the infernal court was also the Nether River. The source of the river of life in the world of spirits and souls was also the river Styx. Now that he sensed a branch of the Nether River flowing in another direction, Wu Dao's original body immediately thought of the Shura realm. Wu Dao's true body continued to float in the Nether River, cultivating in seclusion. During his second awakening, Wu Dao's true self felt a dark, brutal, and violent aura at the horizontal side of the Nether River, which seemed familiar to him. All those years ago he encountered a white pheasant in the starry sky, and then he fell into an ignorant world where black and white were inverted. All the living beings in the surroundings emitted this aura. Beast world. Just as he expected, the Nether River once again split into a tributary, surging towards the direction of the Beast world. Wu Dao's main body continued to float downstream. During his third awakening, Wu Dao's main body felt a strong aura of death. Strangely, the aura of death this time originated from the sky above the Nether River. The Nether River did indeed split into a tributary, but it flew into the sky and surged towards the sky. It was the real river flowing backwards. Such a strange scene could probably only be seen in the Nether River. Wu Dao's main body looked up. If he guessed correctly, the place above the Nether River where this tributary was surging towards was most likely the underworld. The underworld shrouded above the Nether River? The existence of the underworld was different from the 6 paths, and it was indeed a little special. Wu Dao's main body went into seclusion again, drifting in the Nether River. During his fourth awakening, he felt a ghostly aura in the horizontal direction of the Nether River. The Ghost Realm. The direction of the Nether River's tributary, which eventually flowed into the Ghost Realm, should be the river of life in the Ghost Realm that gave birth to countless ghosts. In the blink of an eye, 100 years passed, and Wu Dao's main body woke up again. This time, he broke through the surface of the Nether River and looked in the direction of the Nether River's tributary. He frowned, and his eyes flashed with deep confusion. He had returned to the starting point. The Nether River once again split into a tributary, and the place where this tributary flowed was the Hell Realm. How could this be? During the entire process he did not control the direction. He just followed the flow of the Nether River and went downstream. After spending 100 years he finally circled around and returned to the original Hell Realm? The Nether River had no source? Since it was the 6 paths, why was there no human path and heavenly path? This was very different from his initial conjecture. If the Nether River was a flowing river without a source, it should be in a static state, not in a flowing state. Where did the force that pushed the Nether River to flow come from? Since it was a water without a source, how did the Nether River form? What was in the center surrounded by the Nether River? Wu Dao's main body thought that if he went downstream, he might be able to see through the many secrets of the Nether River and solve some of the doubts in his heart. But he did not expect that after 100 years, everything about the Nether River was still unknown. He had more and more doubts. Fortunately, in the past 100 years, his cultivation had improved and he had gained a lot. He was only half a step away from the Emperor realm and could break through at any time. Wu Dao's main body stretched out his finger and ignited a ball of red lotus hellfire. As soon as the red lotus hellfire appeared, it seemed to be guided by a force and pointed to the center of the Nether River. Wu Dao's main body pondered for a long time and summoned the prison-suppressing cauldron, which floated above his head. The sound of Sanskrit echoed in the cauldron and Buddhist light shone. Thousands of golden light overflowed from the cauldron like a waterfall and formed a barrier around Wu Dao's main body. At the same time, Wu Dao's main body held the soul lamp in his left hand and the netherworld treasure mirror in his right hand. After he was ready, he began to cross the Nether River and walk towards the depths of the Nether River. That direction was only the direction of the red lotus hellfire. Wu Dao's main body did not walk fast. He walked carefully as if he was walking on thin ice. As he walked further and further into the Nether River, the uneasiness in his heart grew. In fact, he even felt a sense of trepidation. As he continued to go deeper, the netherworld treasure mirror in his right hand began to stir and emitted a dangerous aura. Wu Dao's main body shuddered. In fact, there was a mysterious and evil weapon spirit hidden in the netherworld treasure mirror. Back in the cold spring hall, the weapon spirit wanted to devour all of his essence blood. However, he suppressed the weapon spirit with the help of the soul lamp and did not do anything after that. However, Su Zimo knew that the weapon spirit was not dead. Was just hiding. He would not use the netherworld treasure mirror unless he had no other choice because of this. Unexpectedly, as he crossed the Nether River and got closer to the center of the Nether River, the weapon spirit in the netherworld treasure mirror began to become restless. Wu Dao's main body did not dare to continue forward. On one hand, the pressure from the depths of the Nether River was too great. That terrifying feeling shrouded his heart. On the other hand, the weapon spirit in the netherworld treasure mirror could seize the opportunity to break free from his control and cause unforeseen events. At this moment, Wu Dao's main body vaguely saw a flash of fire. Chapter 30:11. Wu Dao's original body wasn't sure if it was fire. As he went deeper and deeper into the netherworld river, the 6 flames in Wu Dao's domain were obviously suppressed, and the intensity of the fire was getting smaller and smaller. However, there was such a strong fire on the surface of the river in front of him. It wasn't suppressed at all, and it even lit up the surrounding river red. 2 balls of purple flames rose in the eyes of Wu Dao's original body. He stared at the ball of fire, wanting to see it clearly. There seemed to be something in the center of the ball of fire. However, he was too far away and the ball of fire was too bright, so he couldn't see it clearly. Wu Dao's original body was about to give up when he saw a dilapidated ancient boat beside the raging fire. The ancient boat looked very simple. It was completely black, without any sails or windows. 2 black oars hung on both sides of the boat, and it floated on the river at the end of the sky. It wasn't strange for an ancient boat to appear on the river. However, Wu Dao's original body was standing on the netherworld river. The appearance of this dilapidated ancient boat was a little strange. Moreover, the dilapidated ancient boat was very close to the ball of fire, but it didn't show any signs of burning. It floated on the river like a ghost, motionless. Wu Dao's original body suddenly frowned. If the ball of fire and the dilapidated ancient boat were on the netherworld river, why didn't they flow down? Why were they floating there? Suddenly, a chilly wind blew from the depths of the netherworld river, and the surface of the river sparkled. The 6 flames in Wu Dao's domain were extinguished instantly. The purple flames in the eyes of Wu Dao's original body were extinguished at the same time. A sharp pain came from his eyes, and he closed them subconsciously. At the same time, an unprecedented fear rose in his heart, making him shudder and his scalp tingle. This feeling of dread almost made him flee in defeat. Not only that, the purple flames in Wu Dao's original body sea of consciousness were flickering in the chilly wind, and they were about to be extinguished at any time. His martial soul was this ball of purple flames. Once this martial spirit flame was extinguished, it meant that his primordial spirit was extinguished, and his body and Tao would vanish. No matter what kind of battle prowess one possessed, no matter how powerful one's Tao was, it would all vanish into thin air. The prison-suppressing cauldron trembled incessantly as it let out a low, mournful cry, conveying a sense of fear to Wu Dao's true body. Even the sorrowful cries of the hell-suppressing cauldron were suppressed, not daring to be too loud. The Sanskrit chanting in the cauldron had already been interrupted. The pervasive waterfall of golden light had long since been shattered. Wu Dao's main body closed his eyes and used the netherworld treasure mirror and soul lamp to block his body as he retreated explosively. After retreating for an unknown distance, Wu Dao's true body only stopped when the feeling of fear gradually subsided and the martial spirit flame in his sea of consciousness recovered. Wu Dao's true body took off the Mo Luo mask, revealing a pale face covered in sweat. He gasped for breath and slowly opened his eyes. Even though he had escaped from danger, he still felt a lingering fear when he recalled the scene just now. What was that chilly wind? Where did it come from? Wu Dao's true body recalled the situation back then. That chilly wind was not strong and was just like a gentle breeze. However, right after, a series of terrifying changes occurred to his body. Wu Dao's true body lowered his head to take a look. Although he had used the soul lamp to block his body earlier, the golden flame in the soul lamp had long been extinguished. The soul lamp must have been extinguished when the chilly wind blew over. Wu Dao's true body gradually calmed down and temporarily gave up on the idea of continuing to investigate the underworld river. The crisis of the great wilderness had yet to be resolved. If something happened to him here, Dai would not be able to withstand Emperor Qin Yan's next attack without help. Wu Dao's true body put away the prison-suppressing cauldron, netherworld treasure mirror and soul lamp. Just as he was about to put on the Mo Luo mask, his heart skipped a beat. The Mo Luo mask was originally an emperor weapon. However, Wu Dao's true body released the heavenly wolf artifact spirit within and granted it rebirth. As a result, the emperor weapon's power was greatly reduced. With his current battle prowess, the mask of Mara was of little use to him, and he could do without it. More importantly, it could be used to hide his appearance. If there was a weakness in Wu Dao's true body, it would be the essence spirit in his sea of consciousness, which was the purple flame martial soul. It was indeed relatively weak. This relatively weak did not mean compared to those of the same level. If he encountered someone whose cultivation level was far above him, such as a peak emperor, it might cause some damage to his martial soul. Wu Dao's true body pondered for a while and prepared to reforge the Mo Luo mask. Whoosh! Wu Dao's true body released 6 streaks of flames and threw the Mo Luo mask over to burn it. Several days passed. Although the Mo Luo mask was burning red and almost transparent, it still showed no signs of melting. The Mo Luo mask was indeed extraordinary. Back then, Emperor Bo Sun had gathered countless natural treasures, rare ores, and fused with the flesh and blood of the 7 emotions avatars to create such a mask. With Wu Dao's true body's current combat strength, even a peerless emperor weapon would not be able to withstand his 6 streaks of flames. The Mo Luo mask had not melted even though it had lost its artifact spirit. If this continued, he would not make any progress. Instead, it would affect his cultivation. Wu Dao's true body was about to give up when an idea flashed through his mind. He took out his soul lamp and lit it up. With that, another streak of golden flames appeared under the Mo Luo mask. Not long after, the Mo Luo mask began to melt. Wu Dao's true body was overjoyed and began to reforge the mask. He did not plan to change the Dao art contained in the mask too much. He only wanted to merge it with his spiritual consciousness so that it could transform into an artifact spirit in the future. To him, the most important step in reforging the Mo Luo mask was not the melting process, but the final quenching process. 49 days later, the Mo Luo mask was completed and ready to be quenched. Normal quenching required one to place the divine weapon in spring water and cool it down quickly to take shape. The higher the grade of the spring water, the greater the improvement it would bring to the divine weapon. And ever since Wu Dao's true body started cultivating, the most powerful and mysterious water source he had ever seen was the Nether River beneath his feet. Wu Dao's true body dipped the Mo Luo mask, which was burning bright red, into the Nether River. Asterisk splash. Asterisk bubbles rose from the surface of the water and a puff of green smoke appeared. The Nether River quickly calmed down. Wu Dao's true body picked up the reforged Mo Luo mask and observed it carefully. The Mo Luo mask's appearance did not change much. However, with a single thought from Wu Dao's true body, the Emo Luo mask suddenly turned into a dark and deep river with ripples. The Emo Luo mask had once again transformed into an emperor artifact. Furthermore, the mysterious power of the Nether River had been fused into it, making it even more powerful than the original Emo Luo mask. Wu Dao's true body put the Emo Luo mask back on his face. With this mask, the weakness of his martial soul would no longer exist. Wu Dao's true body took a deep breath and put away his soul lamp, preparing to continue his seclusion. But soon he took out the soul lamp again. Looking at the golden flames burning on it, a ball of light suddenly burst forth from his eyes. Perhaps he could fuse this golden flame into his body. That way he would be able to control the seventh flame. Wu Dao's purgatory and heaven and earth furnace would both undergo transformations, greatly increasing his cultivation speed. He might even have a chance to break through and step into the Emperor realm. Chapter 30:12. The crow flies and the rabbit flies away. Time flies. In the blink of an eye, 280 years had passed since the Battle of the Grand Wilderness, the Celestial Tribute World. At the entrance of the secret realm hall, 6 realm lords who were in charge of the Heaven Reverence domain stood solemnly. These 6 were all peak imperial emperors. There were more than 100 imperial emperors standing in the square outside the hall. Among them there were nearly 20 peak imperial emperors. Any one of them could attract the attention of countless realms if they stomped their feet in the upper world. But now, whether it was the 6 realm lords at the entrance of the hall or the more than 100 imperial emperors standing in the square with the celestial tribute token tied to their waists, they all had solemn expressions and stood respectfully as if they were waiting for something. Even the Grotto Heaven Kings weren't qualified to stand here. Not long after, a huge crack suddenly appeared in the east of the celestial tribute world. A man in a dark green robe walked out with his hands behind his back. He had a head of green hair and a sharp face. His eyes were like torches as he looked down at everything in the celestial tribute world. This was Emperor Qing Yan. Seeing Emperor Qing Yan descend, the 6 celestial tribute world lords at the entrance of the hall hurriedly knelt down and shouted, "Greetings, Lord Qing Yan." Immediately after, the more than 100 imperial emperors in the square also knelt on the ground and greeted him respectfully. Emperor Qing Yan's expression was indifferent as he nodded slightly. Behind him, another 7 peak imperial emperors appeared. 6 of them were the 6-7 constellation demon emperors that had appeared in the Grand Wilderness back then. The original constellation Horn Demon Emperor was killed by Wu Dao's original body. This 7th peak imperial emperor seemed to be the newly found constellation Horn Demon Emperor. He still had the Flood Dragon bloodline. Whoosh! A white light suddenly flashed in the western sky of the celestial tribute world as if a sharp weapon had torn a huge hole in the sky. In the next moment, a young man appeared. His eyes were long and narrow, and there was a trace of coldness between his brows. The white-robed man wore a white robe and had a token tied to his waist with the word, "How" written on it. The moment this person appeared, the temperature in the celestial tribute world dropped. All the imperial emperors below felt a chill run down their spine. "Greetings, Lord Baiyu." The 6 realm lords of the celestial worship world and the group of imperial emperors below had just stood up. At this moment they knelt down again with respectful expressions. Lord Baiyu was in charge of killing. Although they were imperial monarchs, they were no different from ants in the eyes of Lord Baiyu. 7 imperial emperors appeared behind Imperial Emperor Baiyu. Although they were of different races, they were all peak imperial emperors. The 6 Heaven Reverence World Realm Lords were speechless. Although they knew that people from the heavenly court had come, they didn't know that there would be such a lineup. Not only Emperor Qing Yan and Emperor Baiyu, but even their subordinates, the 7 mansions of the east and 7 mansions of the west, had come. At this moment, a crack appeared in the northern part of the sky, and the sound of waves could be heard from within. In the next moment, a black-robed man walked over on the waves. He had bronze skin, a steady expression, and the command token tied to his waist had the word Xian written on it. He's here too. The hearts of the 6 celestial reverence world realm lords shuddered, but they didn't get up. They maintained their kneeling posture and shouted loudly, "Greetings, Lord Xian Can." 7 peak imperial emperors appeared behind the black-robed man. The 7 mansions of the north. The 6 celestial reverence world realm lords looked at each other and were secretly shocked. It wasn't rare for people from the heavenly court to come. However, it was rare to see such a large lineup. It was probably only seen during the great calamities of the ancient era. Moreover, since all 3 of them had come, the one in the south would probably come as well. Could it be because of what happened in the Rakshasa Sin land? Just as the six of them were thinking, a red light appeared in the southern sky. A huge hole seemed to have been burned in the sky, and a young girl in a red dress walked out. This young girl was young, but she was already a peak Imperial Emperor. The command token tied to her waist had the word, Yen written on it. Greetings, Lord Yen Luo. The 6 celestial reverence world realm lords knelt on the ground. Soon, 7 Imperial Emperors appeared behind the young girl in the red dress. The 7 mansions of the south. However, among these 7, 6 were peak Imperial Emperors, and 1 was only an ordinary Imperial Emperor. Their auras were clearly much weaker. Sister Yen Luo is here too. When Imperial Emperor Baiyu saw the young girl in the red dress, the coldness in his eyes melted. He smiled and greeted her. Imperial Emperor Yen Luo's expression was cold as she ignored him. Qin Yen, thank you for coming to help me this time around. Emperor Azure Flame looked at Emperor Baiyu, Emperor Shen Ken, Emperor Yen Luo, and the other experts and cupped his fists in thanks. It's nothing. Imperial Emperor Baiyu waved his hand and said, I heard that the horned beast emperor under you was killed. I'm also curious to see what kind of ant is so arrogant. Imperial Emperor Qin Yen looked at the 7 southern constellations behind Imperial Emperor Yen Luo and asked with a frown, where's the original horned beast emperor? The horned beast emperor was one of the 7 southern constellations of the Earth Dragon race. The original horned beast emperor was a peak Imperial Emperor, but the one in front of him was an ordinary Imperial Emperor. Imperial Emperor Yen Luo said, the youngest son of the horned beast emperor ran to the Rakshasa Sind land in the celestial reverence world and died there. Moreover, the Rakshasa Sind land shattered and countless Rakshasa Sind spirits disappeared. The horned beast emperor sensed the death of his son and chased after him. In the end, he also died and his corpse was nowhere to be found. Imperial Emperor Yen Luo looked at the celestial reverence world's Imperial Emperors and asked coldly, it's been so long and there's still no news. What one feared would happen. The 6 celestial reverence world's Imperial Emperors trembled. One of the Imperial Emperors quickly said, we've put out a bounty over the past few years. Logically speaking, there shouldn't be a place for them in the 3,000 worlds, but these Rakshasa Sin spirits seem to have disappeared into thin air. Lord Yen Luo, please punish them. Imperial Emperor Yen Luo asked coldly, who killed the horned beast emperor? Any clues? No. A celestial reverence world's Imperial Emperor said with a trembling voice. Imperial Emperor Qin Yen frowned. Yen Luo, this new horned beast emperor is much weaker. I'm afraid he'll affect the power of the 4-direction constellation formation. The 4-direction constellation formation was formed by the 28 horned beast emperors behind them using their bloodlines. It was extremely powerful. Imperial Emperor Yen Luo said, there's only one Earth Dragon Emperor left on my side. I can only let him replace the horned beast emperor for now. Imperial Emperor Baiyu also said, he's just an earthworm. He doesn't have claws or strong bones. It's already good enough to find an ordinary earthworm emperor. Don't ask for too much. The so-called Earth Dragon, despite its name, was actually a species of earthworms. The Earth Dragons had weak bodies and bloodlines. It wasn't easy for them to reach the Emperor realm. Imperial Emperor Shen Ken asked, how many people are there? Is there a need to use the 4-direction constellation formation? End of chapter. Chapter 30:13. There aren't many of them. Emperor Azure Flame said, there's only one that I'm interested in. After pondering for a while, a figure wearing a silver mask and purple robes flashed in the Azure Flame Sovereign Emperor's mind. He said, at most there are 2. What race are they? Emperor Shenshin asked, the evil demon race? At the mention of the evil demon race, Emperor Baiyu and the others shuddered. They couldn't be careless if they were evil spirits or demons. They have nothing to do with the evil demon race. Emperor Azure Flame shook his head. One of them is from the butterfly race and the other is from the human race. Imperial Lord Baiyu scoffed and said, 2 ants, what's there to be afraid of? Is there a need for the 4 directions constellation grand array? With the 4 of us working together, who below the Emperor can stop us? Emperor Azure Flame thought for a moment and nodded. That's true. With the 3 of you helping me, there's no suspense in this battle. It's just that I lost too badly last time and was unwilling to accept it. Just in case, I invited all of you here. Yen Luo seemed to be getting impatient. When are we leaving? After this matter is settled, I'll go back and prepare to ascend to the greater 1,000 realms. It's about time. There's no point in staying in this world. Emperor Shenshin nodded as well. Emperor Azure Flame and the others didn't bother to hide their voices. When the Celestial Realm Imperial Emperors heard this, they revealed looks of envy and yearning. The legendary Greater Thousand Realms. A chance to live forever. One of the Celestial Realm Lords said, "May I know where you're planning to go?" The Celestial Realm Lords are willing to be the vanguard. We're at your disposal. This was a rare opportunity to perform. The Celestial Realm Emperors all agreed. Emperor Azure Flame frowned. In all fairness, with the help of Emperor Baiyu and the others, it didn't matter if the Celestial Realm Lords joined or not. Another Celestial Realm Lord said, "With the help of all of you, the Celestial Realm Lords can use this battle to establish our might and intimidate all races." That's good too. Let's just bring a few people with us. We'll set off once we have 100 people. Emperor Qingyan waved his hand casually. He looked at the 6 world lords of Celestial World and said, "You still need to stay here and monitor the 3,000 worlds. You don't need to come." Yes. The 6 realm lords of the Celestial World could only agree. Then they chose 68 Imperial Emperors and followed behind Emperor Qingyan and the others, preparing to move. "Are you all heading to the Heaven Realm?" One of the Celestial Realm's Imperial Emperors said as if he was asking for credit. "We've discovered that there might be signs of the evil demon's revival in the Celestial Realm. 3 experts who have been dead for many years have come back to life. This subordinate guesses that this might be the work of the Demon Lord." Demon Master. At the mention of the Demon Lord's name, Emperor Azure Flame and the others' expressions changed slightly. Wariness flashed in their eyes. "I'm not going to Heaven Realm." Emperor Qingyan said in a deep voice, "Everyone follow me to the great wilderness." With that, Emperor Qingyan waved his hand and tore open the space in front of him. A spatial tunnel appeared and he led the way. Emperor Baiyu, Emperor Xian Ken, Emperor Yen Luo, and the 28 Constellation Emperors followed closely behind, disappearing from the Celestial World in the blink of an eye. The 6 realm lords of the Celestial World looked in the direction where Emperor Qingyan and the others disappeared. Their eyes flashed with coldness and excitement. This time the Celestial World was going to attack the Great Wilderness again. It would definitely shake the 3,000 worlds and shock all races. Sword World, 10,000 Sword Palace. The old man with the iron crown and the fat and skinny old man were drinking tea and chatting. The fat old man suddenly sighed and said, "It's been more than 200 years since Su Zimo went to the Blood Ape World." The skinny old man said, "I heard that there's trouble over there. This brat even killed people from the Celestial World and escaped from the Blood Ape World. There's no news about him and no one knows if he's dead or alive." At the mention of Su Zimo, the old man with the iron crown's eyes flashed with worry. When he heard that Su Zimo was in danger in the Blood Ape World, he immediately went to search for Su Zimo's whereabouts. However, he didn't find anything after dozens of years. Helpless, he returned to the Sword World. "Let's hope he's safe." The old man with the iron crown sighed. Suddenly, the old man with the iron crown's expression changed as if he sensed something. He suddenly stood up from the cushion and looked into the distance. His gaze seemed to be able to see through the endless void. Not long after, the fat and thin old men also stood up and looked into the distance with bewildered expressions. "What's going on? Such a powerful aura, there's probably more than 100 emperors, right? Such a huge commotion. Let's go take a look." Elder Tai Guan and the other 2 immediately left the Sword World and entered the spatial tunnel. It's the Celestial World. Not only that, there should be many Heavenly Court experts. Looking at this direction, it seems to be the Great Wilderness. The 3 old men didn't dare to get too close and only looked from afar. The fat old man had a complicated expression as he sighed. "I didn't expect that Empress Shui Dai of the Great Wilderness would cause such a huge problem after surviving alone for so many years. More than 100 emperors, that's enough to sweep through any super world in the 3,000 worlds. Now, they're mobilizing so many people just to deal with a woman from the butterfly race. So, I heard that this Empress Shui Dai had an Araki Takashi by her side a few years ago. What can an Araki Takashi do? Forget it, we can't interfere in this matter." The old man with the iron crown and the others shook their heads and sighed. The Blood Ape World. An old ape that was in seclusion deep in the mountains seemed to have sensed something and suddenly stood up. A trace of blood-red light appeared in his turbid eyes as he looked into the distance. "What a huge commotion," the old ape murmured as he tore open the void and prepared to enter it and leave the Blood Ape World. "Realm Lord." Another emperor not far from him hurriedly said, "Those 2 monkey emperors are watching us. We can't leave the Blood Ape World as we wish. They just left not long ago." After the old ape finished speaking, He entered the void and disappeared. After an unknown amount of time. The old ape emerged from the starry sky and looked at the terrifying aura in the distant horizon in deep thought. The old ape murmured, "No wonder those two monkeys suddenly left. They were summoned back by the celestial worship world. That's the direction to the great wilderness world." The old ape shook his head slightly as anger flashed in his eyes. He clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. Such a huge commotion just to deal with that Shui Dai, really? But soon the old ape's clenched fists loosened and his battle intent dissipated. The blood ape world had internal and external problems that he couldn't deal with, let alone other worlds. The heaven world. The world annihilation demon emperor of the demon region, 6 Brahma heaven lord of the pure land of bliss, and immortal emperor Chenmu of the 9 firmament immortal region all woke up from their seclusion at the same time. Looking into the distance, the corners of the 3 experts' mouths curled up at the same time. Their expressions were exactly the same. End of chapter. Chapter 30:14. The 100 imperial emperors didn't hide their auras at all. When they gathered together, the energy waves they emitted were extremely shocking. Almost at the same time, the peak imperial emperors of the various super domains sensed something. This momentum. The last time the celestial tribute domain started a massacre was in the blood ape domain. This time the great wilderness domain is finished. I'm afraid it's not just the celestial tribute domain. The mysterious force behind it has also appeared. Poor blood butterfly demon empress. She's one of the strongest peak imperial emperors in the world and even has a chance to become a great emperor. I didn't expect her to be targeted by the celestial tribute domain. 100 imperial emperors. Sigh, she's doomed. So, don't offend the celestial tribute domain. Since ancient times, those who went against the celestial tribute domain ended up in a miserable state. Many ancient great emperors didn't have good endings. When the blood butterfly demon empress Cultivation was at its peak, she dominated the 3,000 domains and defeated many experts from thousands of races. How powerful was she back then? Even some peak imperial emperors among the dragons and Protoss didn't want to fight her head-on. What about now? The tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. How big of a storm can a small butterfly cause? The Great Wilderness Domain. Eastern Wilderness Butterfly Valley. Dai Yu sat casually on a stone in the valley while the Divine Elephant Demon Empress, Nine-Tailed Demon Empress, Baizé Demon Empress, Sky-Bearing Demon Empress, and Black Snake Demon Empress stood below. The 5 Imperial Emperors weren't strong enough to sense danger, but something big must have happened since Dai Yu suddenly summoned them. They're here. Dai Yu suddenly said. Oh, song? The 5 Imperial Emperors quickly asked. Dai Yu nodded and said, not just song. There are others and people from the celestial tribute domain. How many Imperial Emperors are here? The Divine Elephant Demon Empress asked. 100. Dai Yu said lightly. 100? Imperial Emperors? The Divine Elephant Demon Empress and the others were shocked, and their expressions changed. Before Imperial Emperor Qing Yan left, he had said that he would kill all living beings in the eastern wilderness, but they didn't expect Song's foundation was so terrifying that 100 Imperial Emperors would appear. Imperial Emperor Qing Yan return this time was faster than Dai Yu's imagination. She had estimated that Emperor Azure Flame would need hundreds of years to recover from his injuries. Who would have thought that in just 280 years, they would make a comeback? 100 Imperial Emperors? How are we supposed to fight them? The Divine Elephant Demon Emperor had always been calm, but when he heard the news, his face turned pale. He was at his wit's end. Leave the great wilderness, Dai Yu said. Emperor Qing Tian and Emperor Baizé remained silent. When they heard this news, they didn't have any thoughts of resisting. It wasn't that they were cowards. It was just that the gap between them was too big. Back then, the Black Snake Demon Monarch was so scared by Wu Dao's true body that he stayed in the East Baron. Now, he had no desire to continue fighting and wanted to escape as soon as possible. I'll stay. After a short silence, the Divine Elephant Demon Emperor pursed his lips and said, after all, I have been with you for so many years. I will accompany you on this last journey. I'm not leaving either. Nine-Tailed Demon Emperor said without hesitation. She had different feelings for Dai Yu. Even if she had to die, she would die by Dai Yu's side. Then, Nine-Tailed Demon Emperor seemed to have thought of something. She looked around and frowned. Where's that Araki Takashi? He didn't come? Dai Yu was silent. Nine-Tailed Demon Emperor immediately reacted and sneered. He ran away alone, right? I knew it. Men are unreliable. What a coward. Dai said. He just left because he had something to do. Nine-tailed demon emperor complained. Sister, you're still protecting him at this time. Dai was unwilling to explain further on this matter. She said, listen to me. Among the 100 imperial emperors, there are more than 30 peak imperial emperors. Even if all of you stay here, it will be useless. Demon Emperor Baizhe and the others gasped. What did 30 peak imperial emperors mean? If there were more than 10 ordinary imperial emperors, it could be called a super realm. In a super great world, having a few peak imperial emperors was already considered a powerful world. And this time, Emperor Qingyan had more than 30 peak imperial emperors following him. Dai continued, gather all the living beings in the Eastern Barren territory together. Drive your own boats and try your best to bring them away. The further, the better. Sister, you come with us. Nine-tailed demon emperor hurriedly said. Dai smiled and shook her head. If she stayed in Eastern Barren and fought with Emperor Qingyan and the others, Nine-tailed demon emperor and the others would still have a chance to escape. If she left, no one would be able to escape. Go. Dai waved her hand and looked at Divine Elephant Demon Emperor, Nine-tailed demon emperor, and the others. You're responsible for the lives of billions of Eastern Barren creatures. Try your best to survive. Black Snake Demon Emperor nodded and left first. Emperor Baizhe and Emperor Qingtian bowed to Dai and left. Divine Elephant Demon Emperor and Nine-tailed Demon Emperor were the last to leave. Sister. Nine-tailed Demon Emperor's eyes reddened. She went forward and held Dai's hands. I'll come to accompany you after I settle the Eastern Barren creatures. Okay. Dai nodded. By the time Nine-tailed Demon Emperor settled the billions of Eastern Barren creatures, she would already be dead. Not long after. 5 huge immortal boats broke through the void and entered the space tunnel, quietly leaving Great Barren World. Dai looked at this scene with mixed feelings. She had guarded Eastern Barren World for so many years. She did not expect to come to this. At this moment, the Eastern Wilderness had become empty. Most of the creatures had moved. Dai stood in the air, ready to fight the last battle of her life. Unfortunately, he was not by her side. But Dai was relieved. Fortunately, he was not by her side. Of course, she felt regretful. The time they spent together was too short. Moreover, most of the time they were either fighting or cultivating in seclusion. But Dai thought that being able to reunite with him in the upper world was the biggest surprise of her life. After some time, dark clouds suddenly gathered in the sky above Great Barren World. An unimaginably terrifying aura shrouded Great Barren World. At this moment, all the creatures in Great Barren World were silent and trembling. They looked up at the sky in horror and did not dare to move. In the Great Wasteland domain there was complete silence. Only one figure stood proudly between heaven and earth. He was wearing a blood-red robe and had an indifferent expression. There was an aura of disdain between his brows. Rumble. Thunder rumbled from afar. It was deafening. A huge crack appeared in the sky, almost tearing Great Barren World in half. Hundreds of figures could be vaguely seen inside, exuding a terrifying aura. These hundreds of figures descended on Great Barren World. The entire continent was still trembling, as if it could not withstand the pressure. Cracks appeared. Strong winds howled, lightning flashed, and thunder rumbled. Only that blood-red figure stood tall between heaven and earth. It was dazzling. Chapter 30:15. 100 imperial emperors had descended upon the great wilderness. There were 4 people in the lead and one of them was Imperial Emperor Qingyan. Dai raised her head slightly and looked at the 100 imperial emperors. There was no fear in her eyes and her expression was calm. Apart from Imperial Emperor Qingyan and the 7 constellations sovereign behind him, she didn't recognize any of the other imperial emperors. Among the imperial emperors, the strongest were the 4 standing at the very front. Apart from Imperial Emperor Qingyan, there were 3 people standing beside him. A white-robed man, a black-robed man, and a red-dressed girl. The tokens hanging on their waists were different from Imperial Emperor Qingyan's. While Dai was observing them, the imperial emperors were also observing Dai. Imperial Emperor Baiyu, Imperial Emperor Shen Kan, and the other heavenly court experts were curious as to what kind of person could cause so much trouble for Imperial Emperor Qingyan. As expected, she's just a little butterfly. Imperial Emperor Baiyu smiled disdainfully. Imperial Emperor Qingyan said, "Don't underestimate her just because she's from the butterfly race. Brother Baiyu might not be able to win against her alone." Imperial Emperor Baiyu didn't think much of it. I'll give it a try later. Imperial Emperor Qingyan looked at Daiyu and said, I said that when I return to the great wilderness, I'll show you my true strength. Shuedai, I'll give you one more chance. Submit to me now. Daiyu smiled. Her smile was filled with mockery and ridicule. She didn't even bother to retort. Imperial Emperor Qingyan's face darkened. Shuedai, you're just a frog at the bottom of a well in the great wilderness. Only by following me will you have a chance to ascend to the great thousand worlds. My patience is limited. This is your last chance, Daiyu said. If there's a great thousand worlds, I'll ascend myself. I don't need anyone to give me a chance. Ha 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 ha. Everyone from the heavenly court laughed when they heard that. Emperor Yen Luo curled his lips and said, How ignorant. You are just ants that have been imprisoned here. So what if you are peak imperial emperors? Since ancient times, without the heavenly court's permission, even the great emperors could only be trapped here. This shocking secret was revealed by Yen Luo just like that. Daiyu raised her brows slightly and said, One needs the permission of the heavenly court to ascend to the greater world? Not bad. Emperor Blue Flame said proudly, What is the boundless grace of the heavens? This is it. Heavenly grace, Daiyu murmured. She paused for a moment and smiled, I don't care. The emperors of the celestial tribute world looked at Daiyu with envy and jealousy. Someone disdained to care about the heavenly grace that they sought but could not obtain. Daiyu naturally wanted to ascend to the greater world. However, if she had to accept the so-called gift of the heavenly court in order to ascend to the greater world, she would choose another path. Flatten the heavenly court. Qingyan, this woman's bloodline is weak and she doesn't know what's good for her. Aren't you afraid of losing face by bringing her along? Emperor Baiyu mocked. Emperor Blue Flame's face darkened. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Daiyu had rejected his reward. He could not maintain his composure and murderous intent rose in his heart. Brother Baiyu is right. Emperor Blue Flame took a deep breath, and his expression returned to normal. He smiled and said, She's just an ant from a middle world. She doesn't know much. So what if I kill her? Not only do I want to kill her, but I also want to slaughter all the living beings in the eastern wilderness to accompany the fallen horn mansion. Emperor Shenshin suddenly said, There aren't many living beings left in the eastern wilderness. Most of them should have escaped. Can they escape? Emperor Baiyu sneered and waved behind him. Lu Su, go and smell where the living beings of the eastern wilderness have escaped to. Yes. Lu Su Demon Emperor, one of the 7 mansions of the west. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Lu Su Demon Emperor transformed into his true form. It was a 3-headed howling celestial dog that was 30 meters tall. He sniffed the air frantically. Soon, Lu Su Demon Emperor found the direction that the Divine Elephant Demon Emperor and the others had escaped to. A dog's nose was the most sensitive and the best at tracking. Even if they escaped into the void, Lu Su Demon Emperor could still follow the aura left behind by the living beings. Even if the Divine Elephant Demon Emperor, the 9-tailed Demon Emperor, and the others escaped alone, they would not be able to shake off Lu Su Demon Emperor's pursuit. Not to mention they were carrying billions of living beings of the eastern wilderness. With so many living beings of the eastern wilderness gathered together, their aura was strong. It was too easy for Lu Su Demon Emperor to track them down. Emperor Blue Flame looked sideways and said to the 7 mansions of the east behind him, The 7 of you, follow Lu Su and bring back all the living beings of the eastern wilderness. He wanted to slaughter all the living beings of the eastern wilderness in front of Daiyu. He wanted Daiyu to know the consequences of disobeying him. He wanted Daiyu to regret it. At this moment, Daiyu suddenly attacked. Even in the face of 100 imperial emperors, Daiyu still dared to attack Lu Su Demon Emperor first. After killing this howling celestial dog, the Divine Elephant Demon Emperor and the others would have a much higher chance of escaping. A white hand descended. It looked weak, but it carried endless storms that seemed to be able to tear everything apart. How dare you? Emperor Baiyu's eyes shone brightly. Blood chi surged in his body, emitting extremely strong killing intent. He punched at Daiyu's palm. Bang! The fist and palm collided. Shock flashed across Emperor Baiyu's originally confident face, and then his pupils constricted. Poof! Countless bloody wounds appeared on Emperor Baiyu's arm. His flesh was torn apart by the terrifying storm, and a scarlet blood mist spewed out. In just one move, Emperor Baiyu was already injured. It wasn't that Emperor Baiyu's battle strength was weak. It was just that he had underestimated his opponent at the start and didn't know Daiyu's strength. He didn't even transform into his true body. And in these years, Dai Yu's battle strength had increased with the help of the Yin-Yang Talisman scripture. It was because of this that such a situation was created. The expressions of all the imperial emperors changed when they saw that Emperor Baiyu was injured. Emperor Baiyu's battle strength was in the top 3 among them. Even he couldn't block one move from this blood butterfly. How strong was this blood butterfly? Even Emperor Blue Flame was startled by this. This blood butterfly was even stronger than the previous time. Thankfully, they were well prepared this time round and brought sufficient manpower. Otherwise, they would have returned in defeat. Thank you for saving my life, young master. Demon Emperor Lu Su felt a lingering fear. If Emperor Baiyu hadn't blocked the blood butterfly in front of him, he would have died on the spot from that palm strike. Roar! Emperor Baiyu retreated and transformed into his true form, roaring furiously. A white tiger with a murderous aura appeared. One of its arms was still bleeding and every single drop of blood contained endless killing intent. This was a true white tiger, the legendary Saint Beast bloodline. Emperor Baiyu was Snow White and had a divine might. He had a ferocious aura, and the moment he revealed his true form, his blood chi spread and the auras of the surrounding imperial emperors were suppressed. This was bloodline suppression. Most living beings would feel a fear that came from the depths of their souls when they faced a saint beast like the white tiger. Apart from the azure dragon, vermilion bird, black tortoise, there was also that butterfly. Chapter 30:16. The butterfly race was born weak and it was extremely difficult for them to cultivate. Most living beings of other races had the strength to kill them easily. From the moment Dai Yu was born, there were too many living beings in this world that could make her feel fear. She grew and cultivated carefully as if she was in the abyss. Looking back on her life, she had experienced countless dangers along the way. Every time she defeated an opponent or a race, she would overcome her fear bit by bit until she finally overcame it. When she stood at the peak of the 3,000 worlds and defeated all living beings of the 10,000 races, there was no other living being in this world that could make her feel fear. Just now, after countless baptisms of blood and countless life and death situations, she had tempered a powerful and fearless heart. The blood moons on her wings were condensed from the blood of the 10,000 races. You guys can go and bring him back. Emperor Green Flame waved his hand. Lu Su Demon the Arch and the 7 constellations of the east immediately moved and headed out of the great wilderness domain. Dai Yu and Emperor Baiyu had only clashed once and the void of the great wilderness domain had already shattered. It was difficult to build a space tunnel here. Dai Yu moved and charged towards Lu Su Demon the Arch and the others. Kill! Emperor Baiyu roared and shook the heavens and earth. His white tiger blood surged and activated his bloodline phenomenon. His killing intent was torrential as he leaped and pounced towards Dai Yu. Boom! Emperor Baiyu was forced back once more. He was shocked and furious. He had already revealed his true form and activated his bloodline phenomenon. Yet, he was still no match for this butterfly in close combat. Apart from Lu Su Demon the Arch who had just left, the remaining 6-7 constellations of the west saw that Emperor Baiyu was at a disadvantage and pounced forward, afraid that he would be in danger. Kisu Demon the Arch transformed into a heavenly wolf. Stomach Demon the Arch transformed into a green pheasant. Angsa Demon the Arch transformed into a golden pheasant. Baisu Demon the Arch transformed into a Baifeng fiery bird. Luo Su Demon the Arch transformed into a spirit monkey. Guang Su Demon the Arch transformed into a long-armed sanguine ape. Roar! Kiki! The howls of wolves, roosters and apes echoed throughout the world. The 6 western constellations of the west revealed their true forms and their auras surged. They joined forces with Emperor Baiyu to attack Dai Yu. Boom! 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 Dai Yu fought 1 against 7, and one of them was a peak emperor of the White Tiger bloodline. In close combat she still had the upper hand. She fought her way out of the Great Wasteland domain, withstanding the attacks of the 7 peak demon thearchs. How did this butterfly cultivate to be so strong? Demon Emperor Yenluo frowned slightly. They lived in the heavenly court and possessed the bloodline of holy beasts. They were blessed with a unique cultivation environment and limitless cultivation resources. That was why they could reach where they were today. What does this blood butterfly have? If we don't make a move, I'm afraid Baiyu and the others won't be able to hold on. Demon Emperor Xianxin suddenly said. Monarch Qingyan chuckled and said, Baiyu just wanted to test this blood butterfly. If we go up now we'll disturb his mood. He had suffered greatly under Dai Yu's hands. Now that he saw Monarch Baiyu suffer, he finally found some balance and felt much better. It's just a butterfly. There's no need to trouble all of you to come forward. We'll naturally share your worries. Immediately, a peak emperor of the celestial worship world stepped forward. When they saw that Dai Yu was alone, they were worried that they wouldn't have a chance to perform. Seeing that Monarch Bai Yu and the others were at a disadvantage, they quickly volunteered. Monarch Qing Yan looked at Monarch Shenshin and Monarch Yen Luo and said with a smile, "It's good to let them go up and train. We'll hold the fort here. There's no need to rush into action." Monarch Shenshin and Monarch Yen Luo nodded. 6 Peak Emperor of the celestial worship world charged forward. One of them revealed his true form. It was a burly red-boned horse monkey. He beat his chest and stomped his feet as he charged forward. 6 Peak Emperor Lords, 6 Starry Constellation Imperial Lords and Monarch Bai Yu. A total of 13 Peak Emperor Lords surrounded Dai Yu. This great battle caused the surrounding starry sky to collapse, and numerous starry black holes burst forth. However, the black holes couldn't devour the dozen or so Emperor Lords. 13 Peak Emperor Lords couldn't suppress that blood-red figure. Every time Dai Yu attacked, she would create a terrifying storm that swept through space and tore everything apart. If a Peak Emperor Lord was careless, they would be injured. Boom, boom, boom. Monarch Bai Yu and the others finally couldn't hold on any longer and released their great perfection worlds. White Tiger Sky, Yin-Yang Sky, Burning Sky, Daybreak Sky. 13 great perfection worlds appeared out of nowhere, supporting a large area of the starry sky. It was earth-shattering and even the stars in the sky trembled. Some stars couldn't withstand this power and exploded on the spot, turning into dust. Whoosh! Dai Yu also released her great perfection grotto heaven. Countless butterfly figures appeared inside. They flapped their wings and created a terrifying storm that tore apart the surrounding 13 worlds. Fortunately, this level of battle happened outside the Great Desolation World. Otherwise, the entire Great Desolation World would be reduced to nothing. The remaining celestial worship world's Emperor Lords were mostly peerless or ordinary Emperor Lords. When they saw Monarch Bai Yu and the others blocking Dai Yu head-on, they wanted to take the opportunity to show off and attacked. Kill. The celestial worship world's Emperor Lords stepped forward and released their great perfection worlds. Dozens of worlds enveloped down, and all the power of the world surged in one direction, the blood-colored figure in the center. Normally speaking, the great perfection worlds released by ordinary and peerless Emperor Lords were almost no threat to Dai Yu. However, there were 13 peerless Emperor Lords blocking Dai Yu's frontal attack, and dozens of Emperor Lords constantly attacking. No matter how strong Dai Yu was, she couldn't withstand the siege of so many Emperor Lords. Not long after, her storm world couldn't bear the burden and was on the verge of collapse. The biting cold storm inside was suppressed and gradually calmed down. At this moment, 5 huge spirit ships tore through the sky from the distant horizon. They were extremely fast. Monarch Qing Yan was overjoyed when he saw the figures standing on the 5 spirit ships. The 5 spirit ships were the Divine Elephant Demon the Arch, the Nine-Tailed Demon the Arch, and the others who had escaped from the Great Desolation World. They were riding on spirit ships with billions of eastern wilderness living beings. They couldn't escape Lu Su's perception and were quickly caught up. Whether it was the Divine Elephant Demon the Arch or the Nine-Tailed Demon the Arch, they were only peerless Emperor Lords. They couldn't withstand Lu Su's attacks at all. After a short exchange, they were severely injured. Their worlds were shattered, and they were casually thrown onto the bow of the spirit ship. Once an Emperor Lord's world was shattered, their battle strength would decrease sharply. Without Genesis Chi or Origin Stones, it was extremely difficult to repair it. Ha 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 ha. Monarch Qing Yan laughed loudly and said, "Shui Dai, none of the eastern wilderness living beings you're protecting can escape from me." Dai Yu also noticed the scene in the distance, and her expression turned cold. A pair of huge wings vaguely appeared behind her, and a blood-colored full moon appeared on them. Chapter 30:17. The Divine Elephant Demon the Arch, Nine-Tailed Demon the Arch, and the others' worlds were shattered, and they were covered in injuries. They were trampled under the feet of Demon the Arch Lu Su and the others, unable to struggle. They looked at Dai Yu, who was surrounded by dozens of imperial emperors, and their eyes dimmed. In the ferry boat, the faces of the billions of eastern wilderness living beings were also filled with fear. Everyone thought of the harsh words that Imperial Emperor Qing Yan had said before he left. They all had a premonition of what kind of ending they would face. Dai Yu looked at this scene and suddenly let out a long howl. The howl contained boundless killing intent that pierced through metal, shattered stone, and pierced through the boundless sea of stars. It seemed as if it could reach the heavens and lead to the depths of hell. In the next moment, Dai revealed her true form. In the world behind her, a huge blood-colored butterfly appeared. This blood-colored butterfly seemed to have merged with her true form. In the starry sky, 2 red moons appeared eerily. Be careful. Imperial Emperor Qing Yan saw this scene and hurriedly shouted, "This is her forbidden technique. What's there to be afraid of?" Imperial Emperor Baiyu sneered in his heart. He had the White Tiger bloodline and knew a forbidden technique. Now, a few tens of imperial monarchs had made a move. So, what sort of storm could this butterfly possibly cause by relying on a single forbidden technique? Suddenly, the blood-colored butterfly's wings trembled slightly. In the starry sky, an endless storm swept in all directions, destroying all life. It was unstoppable. No one could describe how terrifying this forbidden technique was. This forbidden technique even tore open wounds on Daiyu's wings, making them drip with blood. The blood merged into the storm and turned into a blood-colored storm that swept thousands of miles of the starry sky. This blood-colored storm looked exceptionally poignant under the illumination of the red moon. White Tiger Army Seal. Imperial Emperor Baiyu's expression changed drastically. Without thinking, he used the white tiger's blood to condense a tiger talisman and released it. The blood-colored tiger talisman scattered in the starry sky, and the scattered white tiger bloodline quickly transformed into thousands of murderous soldiers with swords and spears in their hands. This was condensed from the white tiger's blood, and it contained the white tiger's Tao of slaughter. Even a peak sovereign emperor wouldn't be able to withstand the swarm of an army. In the blink of an eye they would be swallowed whole and torn to shreds. Although the other imperial emperors didn't know forbidden arts, they hurriedly activated their primordial spirits and pushed the power of the world to the limit. The crimson moon storm swept out in all directions. No one was spared from the moonlight. The dozens of celestial emperors were the first to bear the brunt of the moonlight. Although Imperial Lord Baiyu and the other 13 peak Imperial Lords and many peerless Imperial Lords had withstood almost all of the damage from the crimson moon storm, there were still traces of the blood-colored storm drifting out. This was the power of the Tao of Wind, and it was all-pervasive. Buff, buff, buff. Even ordinary imperial emperors would not be able to withstand the slightest wisp of the blood-colored storm. Almost instantly, the worlds of 5 ordinary imperial emperors shattered. Their bodies were torn apart by the bloody storm, and their primordial spirits were destroyed. They died on the spot. Under the siege of dozens of Emperor Realm experts, Daiyu's powerful counterattack still killed 5 Emperor Realm experts. The remaining imperial emperors of the celestial tribute world were shocked and panicked. Crack, crack, crack. The moment the army condensed from the blood of the white tiger descended, a series of cracking sounds could be heard. Cracks appeared on the bodies of the soldiers and war horses. Even Imperial Lord Baiyu's forbidden art could not withstand the crimson moon storm. Of course, Daiyu's condition worsened as well. Her storm world was covered with a touch of blood and was on the verge of collapse. Her wings were already stained red with blood. Roar! A dragon roar reverberated through the clouds. Seeing that Imperial Lord Baiyu and the others could not withstand it, Imperial Lord Azure Flame no longer hesitated and transformed into his true form. His 10,000 feet long dragon body coiled above the cosmos. Opening his dragon mouth, he channeled his essence spirit and condensed a Tao art. He spat out a terrifying dragon breath towards Daiyu that surged like a tide. Within this dragon breath there were even green flames burning. The green flames had clearly exceeded the scope of the power of the world and had come into contact with the existence of the Tao. A second forbidden art. The sanguine storm gradually subsided. 2 forbidden arts, together with 14 peak imperial lords, dozens of peerless imperial lords and ordinary imperial lords, finally suppressed Daiyu's crimson moon storm. Sigh. A sigh could be heard billions of miles away from this starry sky. It's over. I didn't expect the blood butterfly demon empress to hold on until now by herself. She withstood the siege of dozens of imperial lords and even killed 5 of them. Among the imperial lords of the myriad races, who is qualified to stand shoulder to shoulder with her? The number 1 person below the great emperor. What a pity. In the cosmos, several divine will fluctuations flashed. When the old man with the iron crown and the 2 old men saw this, they shook their heads with complicated expressions. To bully others to this extent, really? Let's go back. The old man with the iron crown sighed. That blood butterfly's fate was sealed. They wanted to help, but they were powerless and could not bear to continue watching. In the starry sky and other directions, Some imperial emperors also gradually retreated and disappeared. There was no longer any suspense in this battle. Some imperial lords were worried that if they stayed to watch the battle, they would attract the hostility of the celestial tribute world. This is the terror of the celestial tribute world. So, no matter what, don't become enemies with the celestial tribute world. That blood butterfly demon empress is extremely talented and powerful, but what happened to her? Didn't she die in the end? Some people stayed, wanting to see the outcome of the Great Desolation World. On the battlefield outside the Great Desolation World, Daiyu returned to her human form, but her face was pale. Only the color of his blood-red robe was darker, and the color of blood was even more intense. The storm world behind Daiyu had already collapsed. She could no longer fight. Emperor Azure Flame looked down at Daiyu, who was in the center of the battlefield, with a hint of smugness and coldness in his eyes. "I told you," Emperor Azure Flame said slowly, "I will slaughter all the beings in the eastern wilderness and use their blood to pay tribute to the soul of the Mansion of the Horn. And all this disaster is because of you and that Araki Takashi." At this point, Emperor Azure Flame seemed to think of something and suddenly frowned. "No, there's still one person missing. Where's that Araki Takashi?" Emperor Azure Flame looked at Lu Su Demon Empress and asked loudly. Lu Su Demon Empress was a bit confused. "I sniffed carefully just now. Only 5 auras escaped from the Great Desolation World and we've already caught them." "Impossible." Emperor Azure Flame shook his head and looked at Daiyu. "Shuedai, where's Araki Takashi?" Daiyu smiled faintly and said nothing. "Ah!" Emperor Qingyan suddenly laughed. His eyes were full of mockery. "Last time didn't you join hands and fight side by side? Why are you the only one left today?" "That Araki Takashi is so powerful. He killed my subordinate, the Mansion of the Horn, and caused a disaster, but now he's escaped alone." "Ah. You're about to die and he's not back yet. You still want to protect him?" Daiyu's expression was indifferent, and her heart was calm. "Why are you talking to this bitch? Kill her first." Monarch Yen Luo urged impatiently from the side. "Were you cursing?" At this moment, a man's voice sounded in the sky. Chapter 30:18. Daiyu turned around when she heard that familiar voice. Beside her, the starry sky silently collapsed, forming a black hole, and a figure walked out from within. Purple robes, black hair and a silver mask. He had returned. Daiyu suddenly laughed as though she thought of something. "Were you scolding?" Back when her spirit consciousness descended upon Tianhuang mainland, she seemed to have said something similar as well. "You broke through?" Daiyu asked. The Dao technique that Wu Dao's true body cultivated was special such that even she could not tell his exact cultivation realm. Wu Dao's true body nodded. To be precise, he had only broken through halfway. Wu Dao's domain had indeed improved and entered the Emperor realm, forming a world of his own. However, the essence martial grotto heaven was slightly lacking. He did not encounter any bottleneck, merely that he was in too much of a rush and lacked accumulation. Furthermore, he sensed the danger of the vast wilderness and returned from the underworld river. Even though he had only broken through halfway, it meant that he had entered the Emperor realm and was a true Imperial Lord expert. "I'm late." Wu Dao's true body could not help but feel his heart ache when he saw Daiyu injured and her world shattered. If he had not drifted down the underworld river for 100 years, Daiyu might not have been bullied so badly. "You're back just in time." Daiyu smiled with a gentleness that had never been seen before in her eyes. "I still have some strength left. Let's go together." Actually, Daiyu's storm world was shattered and her forbidden skill dissipated. She did not have much combat strength left. Furthermore, she had just fought dozens of Imperial Lords and expended a lot of energy. She was at the end of her tether. In Daiyu's opinion, even if Su Zimo returned, it would be useless and he would still die. Since that was the case, she would die with Su Zimo in battle so that she could die with no regrets in this life. The moment she said that, she was already prepared to die. As though he could sense her intentions when he saw the determination in Daiyu's eyes, Wu Dao's true body smiled and nodded as well. Holding Daiyu's hand, he said, "Let's go together." Although they were saying the same thing, the two of them were thinking about two completely different situations. Araki Takashi. To think that he would dare to return. The nine-tailed demon emperor, who was sitting on the bow of the immortal boat, had a complicated expression on her face when she saw that figure. Was this person really that stupid? 100 imperial monarchs. How dare he come back? Although she had scolded Araki Takashi for being a coward and running away before the battle, When she really saw Araki Takashi return at this time, an indescribable anger welled up in her heart. This is Araki Takashi? Many imperial emperors of the celestial realm frowned. Logically speaking, this part of the starry sky had just been shattered, and others could not use spatial teleportation. How did this Araki Takashi arrive here directly? Araki Takashi. After Wu Dao's original body appeared, he only cared about talking to Daiyu. He completely ignored the close to 100 Emperor Realm experts present. Emperor Qing Yan's face was gloomy. He couldn't stand it anymore. You dare to come back? Good, very good. Emperor Qing Yan nodded. Although he was smiling, his eyes were filled with killing intent. He's Araki Takashi? Emperor Baiyu raised his eyebrows and sized up Wu Dao's original body, but couldn't see anything special. He curled his lips and said, just a human ant. Emperor Yen Luo couldn't help but sneer. He raised his head and said, Araki Takashi, you're asking me who I'm scolding, right? I'll tell you now. I'm scolding the bitch beside you. What do you want? Kill you. Only now did Wu Dao's original body turn around and look at Emperor Yen Luo and the others. Kill me? Emperor Yen Luo seemed to have heard the most ridiculous thing in the world. He couldn't help but laugh. He pointed at Araki Takashi and said, Do you know who I am? A human ant like you wants to kill me? The 7 constellations of the south behind Emperor Yen Luo also laughed. I don't know who you are. Wu Dao's original body said indifferently, I only know that no one can save you today. How dare you? How arrogant. Before Monarch Yen Luo could react, a few monarchs from the celestial worship world stepped forward and shouted. They had followed. Although they had joined forces with Emperor Baiyu and the others to fight Daiyu, they hadn't done much. They were worried that they wouldn't have a chance to contribute. Now that Araki Takashi had appeared, how could they miss such a good opportunity? They were all eager to try. The 3 celestial emperors charged forward immediately. 2 were ordinary celestial emperors and 1 was a peerless celestial emperor. The 3 celestial emperors split into 3 groups. They didn't underestimate their opponent and each held up a world to suppress him. Wu Dao's original body didn't even look at them. He just shouted. Scram. Boom. This shout rang in the ears of the 3 celestial emperors. It was like a thunderclap. The 3 celestial emperors froze. Their eyes widened and their expressions stiffened. There was only endless fear left in their eyes. Crack, crack, crack. Cracks appeared in the 3 celestial emperors' worlds and they instantly collapsed. Then, under everyone's gaze, the 3 celestial emperors' bodies exploded and turned into a bloody mist. Their bodies and souls were destroyed and their Tao dissipated. The celestial emperors outside the battlefield gasped when they saw this scene. Emperor Qing Yan had seen Wu Dao's original body before, but this still made his heart tremble. A casual shout had killed 3 celestial emperors. One of them was even a peerless celestial emperor. This kind of explosive power was a little too terrifying. Some celestial emperors in the celestial emperor world who were about to make a move temporarily stopped. Araki Takashi's combat strength was probably on par with Xue Dai. If there weren't so many peak celestial emperors in front, the remaining ordinary and peerless celestial emperors wouldn't dare to act rashly. Wu Dao's original body's attention wasn't on those people at all. His gaze was still fixed on Emperor Yen Luo. Whoosh! Suddenly, Wu Dao's original body moved and appeared in front of Emperor Yen Luo in an instant. His speed was too fast. Wu Dao's original body was still holding Daiyu's hand. Even when he was carrying someone, he could still erupt with such speed. Moreover, no one expected that Araki Takashi would dare to directly attack Emperor Yen Luo with so many celestial emperors and more than 30 peak celestial emperors present. You're courting death. Emperor Yen Luo's reaction was also very fast. She shouted and her blood surged. Behind her, a vermilion bird that was bathed in boiling lava appeared and let out a long cry. It emitted a scorching heat that could split apart everything. Wu Dao's original body's gaze was calm. He didn't care what Emperor Yen Luo did and simply waved his hand and punched. It was a simple and ordinary punch. It was an extremely ordinary fist technique, straightforward and direct. However, this punch instantly attracted everyone's attention. The starry sky was collapsing. An unstoppable aura and will descended, suppressing everything. The vermilion bird avatar behind Emperor Yen Luo let out a long cry, but it turned into a sad cry. Boom. A loud explosion erupted in the starry sky. The huge vermilion bird was shattered by Wu Dao's original body with a single punch. Emperor Yen Luo was sent flying. Her face was pale and she spat out blood. The fragments of her armor were mixed with her blood. She was in a miserable state. End of chapter. Chapter 30:19. Empress Yen Luo's face turned pale. She was shocked and furious. If it wasn't for the armor she was wearing, which blocked half of the damage, she would have died from this punch alone. All the imperial emperors were in an uproar when they saw this scene. What kind of power was that? Empress Yen Luo was a peak imperial emperor and had the vermilion bird bloodline. Yet, she was half dead from Araki Takashi's punch. It's only been 200 years, but his battle strength has reached such a level. Empress Azure Flame's expression was grave as the killing intent in her eyes intensified. The last time, Araki Takashi had to put in a lot of effort to kill the Horn Mansion demon the Arch. But now he was so powerful with just one punch. Wu Dao's true body injured Empress Yen Luo with one punch and didn't show any mercy. He strode forward and chased after Empress Yen Luo's body that was sent flying. He looked down from above and stomped down with a torrential aura. Boom. Before his foot even touched Monarch Yen Luo's body, the surrounding space had already shattered and collapsed. Wu Dao's true body wanted to stomp Empress Yen Luo to death. Dai Yu followed beside Wu Dao's true body. When she saw him leave 2 ravines in space with a single step, she couldn't help but recall some of the past and was a little dazed. Empress Yen Luo was shocked. What was Araki Takashi trying to do? Was he trying to kill her with one punch and one kick? She had just been punched by Wu Dao's true body and her bloodline avatar had collapsed. Her essence spirit had also suffered an impact and she couldn't condense Dao arts for the time being. What? At that moment the tide surged and the vast Milky Way surged over. It shone with a resplendent light and instantly swallowed Empress Yen Luo's body. At the same time, a huge divine beast appeared on the surface of the river. It looked like a tortoise and a snake coiled together. Its eyes shone with a dark divine light and it had a thick armor on its back, protecting Empress Yen Luo. Empress Xianqan had transformed into her black tortoise body and arrived in time. Bang! Wu Dao's true body stomped on Empress Xianqan's tortoise shell with a dull thud. This thick and ancient tortoise shell could withstand almost all damage. It was the Black Tortoise clan's most powerful defensive technique. Even so, abstruse Ginseng Demon Monarch's body was still sinking. His chest felt heavy and his vision turned black. The power of this stomp was so ferocious that even the tortoise shell on his back couldn't completely dissolve it. At the same time, Imperial Emperor Qing Yan and Imperial Emperor Bai Yu both reverted to their true forms and unleashed fierce attacks on Wu Dao's true body. Dragon Tail and Tiger Claws came one after another. Wu Dao himself did not dodge. With one hand holding Dai Yu and the other clenched into a fist, he threw out 2 punches. Boom. The fist landed on the dragon's tail, and the 1,000 zhang long dragon's body shook violently. Countless green dragon scales fell off, and blood dripped everywhere. Boom. The second punch landed on the white tiger's claw. Emperor Bai Yu cried out in pain. The palm of this tiger claw had been punched into a bloody mess by Wu Dao's true body. He could not feel his entire white tiger arm. With his strength alone, Wu Dao's true body repelled 4 peak imperial lords with the bloodlines of sacred beasts with 3 punches and a kick. He was invincible. When she saw that, Dai Yu's beautiful eyes flickered with hope once more. She exerted some strength, wanting to break free from the grip of Wu Dao's true body. However, Wu Dao's true body seemed to have sensed her intentions and gripped even tighter. What are you doing? In the midst of the battle, Wu Dao's true body did not take advantage of the situation to pursue. Instead, he turned around and asked with a hint of a smile in the depths of his eyes. You won't be able to unleash your full strength with me by your side. Dai Yu frowned slightly and looked at him in annoyance with a hint of reproach and helplessness in her eyes. Ha 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 ha. Suddenly, Wu Dao's true body burst into laughter and looked down at the imperial lords. A single hand is enough to deal with them. All the imperial monarchs were infuriated when they heard this, and they flared up with rage. It was one thing for Araki Takashi to tug at Dai Yu during the battle. But now he was even spouting nonsense and ignoring all the imperial lords present. This was truly condescending and arrogant to the extreme. Dai Yu wanted to say something but hesitated with a hint of worry in her eyes. She knew her situation very well. Although she still had some strength, her combat strength was greatly reduced and she could not help Wu Dao's true body at all. On the other hand, there were close to 100 imperial lords left and more than 30 of them were peak imperial lords. Among those peak imperial lords, there might be some who knew forbidden arts or had other powerful trump cards. Dai Yu was worried that she would implicate Wu Dao's true body. As though he could see the worry in Dai Yu's heart, Wu Dao's true body said with a smile, "We just said that we'll go together. Why are you going back on your words now?" Dai Yu sighed internally and stopped struggling. Earlier on she was thinking of the two of them dying in battle together. But now, it seemed like Wu Dao's true body wanted to bring her along to kill. Of course, the reason why Wu Dao's true body insisted on bringing Dai Yu along was not because he wanted to flirt with her. He wasn't that ridiculous. It was just that Dai Yu was severely injured and there were close to 100 imperial lords eyeing her covetously. If he left Dai Yu aside, her life might be in danger if he was careless. Only by keeping Dai Yu by his side would he be able to protect her. "You're still spouting nonsense when you're about to die. Kill." Emperor Qing Yen shouted and waved his arm. Boom. The 28 imperial lords and dozens of imperial lords of the celestial tribute world attacked at the same time. Countless divine weapons tore through the air. Emperor Qing Yen, Emperor Baiyu, Emperor Shen Kan, and Emperor Yen Luo charged forward once more. The four of them were filled with killing intent, but they did not release their perfected worlds. To them, they had the bloodlines of sacred beasts and there was no way a lowly human before them could fight against them in melee combat. And it was 1 against 4. Emperor Qing Yen, Emperor Baiyu, and Emperor Shen Kan all revealed their sacred beasts. Together with the Azure Dragon, White Tiger, and Black Tortoise bloodline avatars, their auras reached their peak. The strange thing was that although Emperor Yen Luo had the vermilion bird bloodline, he did not transform into his vermilion bird form. Heaven and earth as the furnace, creation as the workmanship, yin and yang as the charcoal, and all things as the copper. Wu Dao's true body let out a long chant. Boom. A huge furnace appeared around him. It almost broke through the heavens and earth and contained thousands of miles of stars. Inside, flames burned fiercely and shot into the sky. Bloodline avatar heaven and earth furnace. Clang, clang, clang. Many divine weapons descended but could not touch Wu Dao's true body. They only hit the heaven and earth furnace before collapsing. Some ordinary Imperial Lord weapons did not even have the chance to be retracted after hitting the heaven and earth furnace. They were fiery red and turned into molten iron in a few breaths' time. With just the heaven and earth furnace, Wu Dao's true body isolated the 28 lunar mansions and dozens of Imperial Lords from the celestial reverence realm. Of course, the heaven and earth furnace could not last for long. At most 10 breaths' time. For Wu Dao's true body, 10 breaths' time was more than enough. When Emperor Qing Yen, Emperor Baiyu, Emperor Shen Kan, and Emperor Yen Luo closed in, they suddenly realized that there were no helpers around them. Everyone was isolated from the world by the blazing furnace that was burning red and seemed to be able to break through the sky. At this moment, the endless flames in front of them suddenly shot out 2 beams of divine light. Wu Dao's true body made a move. End of chapter. Chapter 30-20. At this moment, the Arch Azure Flame and the other 3 panicked and their auras weakened. With Wu Dao's combat talent, how could he miss this opportunity? Whoosh. Wu Dao's true body took a deep breath and circulated his bloodline. He activated the heaven and earth furnace and stepped forward. In an instant he raised his hand and punched out 4 times. Bang. The 4 punches collided with the attacks of the Arch Azure Flame and the other 3. Only a deafening sound was heard. The starry sky shook. At this moment, it was as if time had stopped. After a short pause, the 4 figures were sent flying and crashed into the walls of the heaven and earth furnace before falling down. Ah! The 4 screamed. The walls of the heaven and earth furnace had long been burned red. Even ordinary the arch weapons could be melted. Although the 4 bodies with the bloodlines of sacred beasts were not burned to ashes, thick smoke billowed from their charred bodies. They were in a sorry state. The 4 spat out blood, but they did not dare to stay. They hurriedly got up and looked at the terrifying figure approaching in the flames with shock. They had originally wanted to use Wu Dao's attack to leave the battlefield and join forces with the other imperial emperors to attack together. Who would have thought that this heaven and earth smelt would isolate the 4 of them from the monarchs outside? The imperial emperors outside could not rush in, so they could not escape either. The Arch Azure Flame and the other 3 looked at each other and quickly calmed down. Whether it was them or the 28 lunar mansions outside, they still had other trump cards and contingencies. Kill. The Arch Azure Flame and the other 3 joined forces again and shouted as they took out their destiny divine weapons. It had to be said that the 4 of them had the bloodlines of sacred beasts and had strong vitality. Even after being punched twice by Wu Dao's true body, they were not injured at all and still had decent combat strength. Roar. Screech. Roar. Roar. The arch-azure flame opened his dragon mouth and spat out a green spear covered in dragon scales. The spearhead was sharp and seemed to be able to pierce through everything. Emperor Yen Luo waved his hand and took out a scarlet feather fan, accompanied by the cry of a vermilion bird. Emperor Baiyu opened his mouth and spat out a ray of white light. It was a bone saber made of white bones. It was filled with a murderous aura and killing intent. Emperor Xianxun took out a thick and heavy pitch-black armor. There were sharp spikes on the back of the armor that could be used for both offense and defense. Dragon lance, bone saber, feather fan, tortoise shell. The 4 divine weapons pierced through the air, accompanied by the cries of dragons, phoenixes, tigers, and ghosts. But at the same time that the 4 divine weapons descended, the roars of 4 divine beasts also sounded from Wu Dao's original body, reverberating through the starry sky. The glabella of Wu Dao's main body flickered, and an ancient bronze square cauldron broke through space and descended. Dazzling divine light flickered on the walls of the cauldron. The 4 holy souls of the azure dragon, vermilion bird, white tiger, and black tortoise were awakened at the same time, and they transformed into giant figures that roared toward the sky. Just in time. Wu Dao's main body snorted coldly. He was about to use the bloodlines of the 4 divine beasts to reconstruct the hell-suppressing cauldron. The hell-suppressing cauldron was originally an emperor divine weapon. However, after it was shattered, the 4 holy souls fell into a deep sleep one after another, and their power was greatly reduced. They were no longer as powerful as before. Although it had been repaired and tempered in Wu Dao's domain all year round, it still lacked some key opportunities and was unable to return to its peak. That opportunity was the bloodlines of the 4 divine beasts. In the 3,000 worlds, be it the Dragon World or the Wudong World, there were no divine beasts' bloodlines. Only the Heavenly Court existed. Wu Dao's main body was almost certain that the Infernal Emperor must have killed the clansmen of the Heavenly Court's divine beasts when he forged this hell-suppressing cauldron back then. However, there were also legends and many signs that the Infernal Emperor had once become enemies with the Infernal Court and suppressed the Lord of Hell. He couldn't figure out the ins and outs of this matter. The dragon lance, bone saber, feather fan, and tortoise shell had just descended when they were suppressed by the hell-suppressing cauldron. Then they were all swallowed by the hell-suppressing cauldron. Inside the heaven and earth furnace, flames burned as it began to reforge the hell-suppressing cauldron. Wu Dao's main body stepped forward again. Borrowing the power of the heaven and earth furnace, he fought against 4 alone and forced Emperor Qingyan and the other 3 to retreat and spit out blood. Regardless of whether they had the vermilion bird bloodline or the divine beast's bloodline, in the heaven and earth furnace, Wu Dao's will envelop them. And these divine beasts' bloodlines turned into threads and slowly entered the hell-suppressing cauldron. The hell-suppressing cauldron's aura continued to rise. The eyes of Emperor Qingyan and the other 3 almost popped out of their sockets. They were furious. This Araki Takashi had not only injured them, but now he was using their bloodlines to reforge the hell-suppressing cauldron. Emperor Yen Luo's expression changed when he saw the hell-suppressing cauldron appear. As if he had thought of something, deep hatred and killing intent rose in his eyes. That cauldron is that bald donkey's weapon. Emperor Yen Luo said coldly as he stared at Wu Dao's main body. Extremely terrifying energy fluctuations surged in his body. Be careful, it's a forbidden art. Daiyu sensed it and hurriedly warned. Ah! Emperor Yen Luo stretched out his arms and screamed. His voice was extremely ear-piercing and pierced through metal and stone. The bloodline in her body continued to condense. Suddenly, a fiery red sparrow that was about 10 feet long charged out of her body. This fiery red sparrow exuded an extremely terrifying aura. After this little sparrow appeared, even the heaven and earth smelt started to tremble. The originally blazing flames were suppressed by one side. This is a forbidden art that touches upon the power of the Tao? Wu Dao's main body murmured softly. Just a forbidden art was still unable to shake the heaven and earth furnace. At the same time, Emperor Qingyan, Emperor Baiyu, Emperor Shen Kan, and Emperor Yen Luo released their perfect worlds, creating an extremely violent energy that was about to burst the heaven and earth furnace. Outside the heaven and earth furnace, the 28 celestial lords and the other celestial lords of the celestial worship world also supported their worlds and continuously attacked the heaven and earth furnace. The heaven and earth furnace shook continuously, the flames flickering. Finally, it could not hold on any longer. Boom! The heaven and earth furnace collapsed. Emperor Qingyan and the other 3 finally broke free and stood together with the 28 celestial lords and the other celestial lords of the celestial worship world. Wu Dao's main body's expression was normal, and his gaze was calm. Unfortunately, his Yuanwu Grotto Heaven had yet to reach the Arch Realm. The Yuanwu Grotto Heaven was his Tao body. Once the Yuanwu Grotto Heaven reached the Arch Realm, his Tao body would rapidly grow and rise to another level. At that time, even if he did not use the Yuanwu Grotto Heaven, he could shatter the perfect worlds of these peak celestial lords with just the power of his body and bloodline. As for now, he could only release the world formed by Wu Dao's domain. Martial universe. Kill? Emperor Qing Yan and the others did not intend to give Wu Dao's main body any time to breathe. They roared again and led the other celestial lords to charge forward. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.